The cultivation family. I begin by taking a concubine and practicing the art of the sun and moon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, The Magical Effect of Innate Purple Energy. What's more important is that this second level purple Qijingling bamboo will also continue to breathe out spiritual energy. Whether it is a thick bamboo trunk or a leafy bamboo leaf, it slowly breathes out rich and pure spiritual energy. It is quite in an ultra-small spiritual vein. Along with the other first-level purple Qijingling bamboo around it, the growth rate has also increased by a few points. And during this period, one of the remaining 4 purple Qijingling bamboo actually broke through and reached the second level. In this way, just like the first purple Qijade spiritual bamboo, it began to exhale spiritual energy. This made Zhou Daocheng certain that this special purple Qi green bamboo, as long as it reaches the second level, can start to breathe out spiritual energy, thereby making the surrounding environment more superior. If there is a large area of purple Qijade spiritual bamboo, and all the quality reaches the second level or above, and can produce spiritual energy, the change to the environment will be huge. It is no exaggeration to say that it is comparable to a small spirit stone vein, and its value is far beyond imagination. And this is not a fantasy, if it is very likely to be realized. Because as the quality of this purple air bamboo improved, 3 small bulges appeared on the ground again, revealing the emerald green shoot tips. These are obviously 3 newly grown purple Qijingling bamboo plants. It seems that as long as they break through to the second level, they can start to reproduce and grow. This is a very good phenomenon. The other 3 trees are already infinitely close to the second level. If they all break through, a bamboo forest will immediately form. Thinking of this, Zhou Daocheng was also very excited. This means that he has been able to propagate the spiritual plant purple Qijade spiritual bamboo on a large scale. Many formations that need to use the spiritual plant have inexhaustible materials. He plans to use the purple Qijingling bamboo to deploy a powerful second level formation to increase his strength after breaking through to the foundation building stage. Now it seems that at least the materials no longer need to be worried. Zhou Daocheng looked at this small bamboo forest with satisfaction, and had to sigh at the effect of the innate purple energy, almost creating a type of spiritual plant with extremely high quality. Purple Qijingling bamboo is like this, and purple armor devouring spirit and is also like this. They all have extremely high potential and can bring huge value. So what he needs now is time. As long as he has enough time, he can accumulate enough innate purple energy, and with the help of these high-quality spiritual plants and spiritual beasts, he can obtain a large amount of resources and transform them into strength. But now, it is very difficult to accumulate innate purple energy from Zhao Yunzhi, and it can only be accumulated over a long period of time. And every time a wisp is accumulated, the next accumulation speed will be slower, which makes him feel a little worse. Moreover, many times, monks spend so long in retreat that they simply cannot make up the time. Just like now, Zhao Yunzhi has been idle during Zhou Daocheng's several months of retreat. But when Zhou Daocheng came out of seclusion, Zhao Yunzhi happened to be in seclusion again, wasting an opportunity to accumulate innate purple energy. Zhou Daocheng sighed and muttered to himself rather helplessly, "It seems that we have to think of other ways, otherwise the accumulation of innate purple energy will be too slow." After tasting the sweetness, he became more and more eager for the innate purple energy, and he had many ideas in his mind that needed the innate purple energy to try. In addition to being used on beetling bamboo and spirit-swallowing ants, can the innate purple energy be used in other places? For example, if it is used by the iron-backed brutal bear who is at the peak of the first level, is there any chance to further improve its talent so that it can break through to the second level? If it can be used, what changes will happen to the iron-backed bear? For another example, is it possible to use a wisp of innate purple energy on purple Qijade spirit bamboo and purple armor devouring spirit ant again? Is it possible for another huge change to occur? If a creature can have many wisps of innate purple energy at the same time, What changes will happen to it in the end? Is it possible to continuously improve, even allowing an already powerful spiritual insect like the spirit-swallowing ant to become the top ancient spiritual insect in the legend of the world of immortality? This is a very scary conjecture. If it can succeed, then just relying on monsters like the purple-armored spirit-swallowing ant will give the Zhou family unlimited possibilities. Or, can a ray of innate purple energy be integrated into a formation? If it could be done, what changes would occur? Become like a natal magic weapon, able to accompany the monk's growth, or have some strange abilities? If the formation is okay, what about the magic weapons, talismans, elixirs, puppets, and spirit boats? There are too many ideas that are constantly turning over in Zhou Daocheng's mind, but because he does not have enough innate spirit, it's purple, so I can't try it. At this time, two figures suddenly appeared in his mind. They are the woman with the red snake tattoo and Aunt Kinmu of Zun Pavilion. These are the only two women he has come into contact with so far who are more talented than Zhao Yunzhi. However, it would be very troublesome for anyone to obtain the innate purple energy from them. Aunt Kinmu has the powerful Zun Pavilion and the Qin family behind her, and is also an important nurturing target in the family. Not to mention the woman with the red snake tattoo, with her character. If she shows any intention, she will most likely be eaten. No need to walk around. Zhou Daocheng shook his head helplessly and could only think of another way. While he was thinking, the communication stone in his arms suddenly vibrated slightly. After just one glance, Zhou Daocheng frowned slightly, turned around and left the elixir garden and headed for the second valley. During his retreat, although Zhu Daobai was in charge of the general direction, Meng Yushan and Wei Hanshan handled the specific matters, and everything was in order. But there were still some things that he needed to ask about personally, and there seemed to be good news. He came all the way to the second valley and found Wei Hanshan, who was handling affairs. Seeing Zhou Daocheng coming, Wei Lao also understood, stopped his work, and temporarily followed Zhou Daocheng to a cave. Wei Lao, how is the situation recently? Zhou Daocheng asked calmly. Wei Hanshan bowed respectfully and said, there are many things, both good and bad. We can solve most of them, but the small part still needs you to know. Zhou Daocheng nodded. He was the nominal master of the Fog Valley. Maybe he didn't need to do everything himself, but he still had the right to know. After thinking for a moment, he said, let's talk about the good news first. How is old Z doing? Hearing this question, Wei Hanshan's face lit up and he lowered his voice and said, congratulations, Senior. Wu Gu has added another strong man. Fellow Taoist Zizao, oh no, Senior, has successfully broken through the foundation building stage. Chapter 227. A larger cave. But when he broke through, the Zhou family senior came here to cover up the signs of the breakthrough, so no one knew about it. Senior Zizao also took the opportunity to hide, and no one knew about his breakthrough. Zhou Daocheng's face also showed joy. This is definitely the best news he has heard recently. Hey foundation building expert, this is the real foundation of a force, and it really makes Wu Gu a big force. However, Zhou Daocheng still has some worries in his heart. After all, he doesn't know much about Zizao. On the one hand, there is not much friendship between the two. It just provides some convenience and help before the breakthrough. Of course, for most people, these helps are enough to make people grateful. After all, this is a foundation building expert. It is not an easy thing to make him bow down. On the other hand, Zhou Daocheng has no way to restrict Zizao. If he doesn't want to stay, Zhou Daocheng actually has no way. Therefore, after Zhou Daocheng pondered for a moment, he asked Wei Hanshan a question. Old Wei, tell me the truth, what is Zizao's attitude after his breakthrough? Wei Hanshan was old and wise. After hearing the words, he thought for a few seconds and said, Senior Z asked me to bring you a message for him. What is it? In the future, he wants a bigger cave in Wugu Market. After hearing this, Zhou Daocheng smiled and understood Zizao's choice. This person is not a heartless person. Even if he breaks through to the foundation building stage, he has no intention of leaving. but is willing to stay in Wugu. This is exciting good news for both Zhou Daocheng and the entire Wugu. With 2 foundation building cultivators stationed in Wugu, the safety will inevitably be greatly improved. In the future, whether hunting monsters or guarding Wugu, it will be much easier. What's more, Zhou Daocheng has now refined the spirit puppet array plate and also has the 2nd level strength, which means 3 foundation building masters. This speed of strength improvement is simply unimaginable. After Zhou Daocheng understood Zhao's intention, he did not say much, but went with Wei Hanshan to meet him. Zhao's breakthrough was not publicized in Wugu market, and even from the breakthrough to now, Zhao had never appeared in front of everyone. Therefore, most people thought he was still in seclusion, and did not know that he had succeeded and was a foundation building expert hidden in the dark. When Zhou Daocheng came to this hidden cave, Zhao was sitting at the stone table, drinking tea calmly. Seeing Zhou Daocheng coming, he immediately stood up and saluted, with a hint of gratitude in his eyes, and said respectfully, "Zhao meets the Lord of Wugu, thank you for your help. Otherwise Z would probably not be able to successfully break through the foundation building." Zhou Daocheng smiled and waved his hand. "Zhao, there is no need to be polite, what I do is secondary, and the real decision whether you can break through is still your own accumulation and ability. This is not modesty. Even if Zhou Daocheng gives a lot of help, it can only make the success rate reach about 20% at most. 15% breakthrough probability. The final success was largely due to Zhao's own reasons. He just played a supporting role. However, Zhao looked solemn and said seriously, "If it is an ordinary cultivator, after taking the condensing spirit pill, the probability of breakthrough should be only 10%. Z has such a high success rate, and I really have to thank the senior." Zhou Daocheng smiled. Although Zhao has successfully broken through the foundation, he still calls him a senior. It seems that he is pure in heart and is a person worth making friends with. Since you have joined Wugu, these are all trivial matters. What are your plans for the future? I heard you want a bigger cave. Zhao smiled and said, "Since the 9th level of Qi refining can sign an agreement with Wugu, I wonder if I, a foundation building strongman, can also sign one?" Zhou Daocheng nodded and said, "Okay, I will build a cave specifically for fellow Taoist Z, and add 3 acres of spiritual fields." He did not intend to let Zhao continue to live in the second valley. Although the environment here is good, it is actually only average for foundation building cultivators. Moreover, since Zhao's breakthrough was hidden, Zhou Daocheng did not want it to be exposed too early. Having such a trump card hidden in his hand would bring him all kinds of benefits without any harm. So after the two sides had a good talk, Zhou Daocheng immediately took action and began to help Zhao build a cave. The method used was similar to the spiritual medicine garden and spiritual beast garden. In the outer mountains, a small valley was created to prepare a cave for Zhao. The internal terrain was flat and wide, which could be used to cultivate spiritual fields, or raise spiritual birds, or for other purposes, all of which could be freely arranged. As for the location, after some discussion, the two finally chose the northeast direction of the Wuyifang city, just to be stationed in the east, and cooperate with Zhou Daobai to expel the second-level monsters there. A quarter of an hour later. When Zhao saw a valley shrouded in mist, his eyes lit up. The environment here was completely beyond his imagination. The ground was fresh soil that had been turned over. Under the irrigation of the mist, a layer of wet dew condensed, which looked full of vitality. Moreover, the valley is surrounded by mountains, which looks very safe. The area is not small, about 4 to 5 acres, which is more than enough for daily use. Zhao, have you planned to plant any spiritual plants? Zhou Daocheng asked with a smile. Zhao waved his hand and said, "I have been wandering around all my life. Now I have my own territory. I don't want to bother too much. I'll just plant some spiritual grains in peace. The environment here is very good. I will live here in the future. If you need anything, just come to me." Okay. There are often second-level monsters invading from the east recently. Brother Zhou Daobai of the Zhou family has been busy with this matter. If you have time, Brother Z can help out. No problem, it's a small matter. The two sides chatted briefly for a few words, and Zhou Daocheng took the initiative to withdraw. In addition to Zhao's good news, there are some other things he needs to deal with. When they were besieging the second-level monsters, two ninth-level chi refining cultivators were attacked by the mental attack of the black-eyed ghost scale snake and were seriously injured. Previously, it was thought that they were at most mentally damaged and it would be difficult for them to break through to the foundation building stage in the future. However, it was later discovered that their injuries were greater than expected. When Zhou Daocheng arrived, he found Yuanzong and another cultivator at the 9th level of chi refining lying on the stone bed in the cave, looking listless. How could this happen? Is there no way to treat it? Zhou Daocheng did not ask. Wei Hanshan shook his head and said, things are a bit troublesome. Although their lives are not in danger, their strength has directly regressed to the 8th level of chi refining, and it is very likely that it will be difficult to recover in the future. Chapter 228 Yuanzong's decision. Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng immediately frowned, knowing the seriousness of the matter. This is almost equivalent to losing two 9th level chi refining experts, especially for Yuanzong and the other two. It was a huge blow. Let alone breaking through the foundation building stage, even returning to the 9th level of chi refining was extremely difficult. Zhou Daocheng also checked and found that the two men's spirits were severely damaged and their bodies were seriously injured in the battle. The successive blows directly caused their strength to decline. And it is indeed a permanent injury. If they don't have extremely clever means to help them restore the meridians in their bodies, they will most likely have to stay at the 8th level of chi refining in the future. Regarding this situation, Zhou Daocheng could only sigh helplessly. After all, he is not an alchemist, nor is he a pure doctor. There is really nothing he can do about this kind of thing. However, Zhou Daocheng was already prepared for this kind of thing to happen. After all, hunting monsters is not an easy task. When the Zhou family hunting team went out to hunt monsters, there would often be casualties. What's more, the one being hunted this time was a second-level monster, so the danger was even higher. If it weren't for the formation in Zhou Daobai, more people would be injured this time, and it would not be impossible for the entire army to be annihilated. However, even though he was prepared, Zhou Daocheng still felt uncomfortable when things actually happened. On the one hand, it is the loss of power, but on the other hand, it also means that the results of killing two second-level monsters this time will inevitably be greatly compromised. And he also had to protect the future of the two people in front of him. If you ignore them, it will definitely chill the hearts of other monks. Moreover, Zhou Daocheng himself is not a cold-blooded person. Yuanzong was one of the first to follow him and open up the existence of Wu Yifang city together. He still has feelings to a certain extent. After thinking for a long time, Zhou Daocheng said, from now on, you should join the guard team. It is relatively safer there. In addition, the treatment is still the same as that of the 9th level of chi refining. You will receive spiritual stones and spiritual grains every month. Since if you get hurt because of Wu Gu will naturally support you for the rest of your life. After the words fell, everyone's expressions changed slightly. Especially the two people who were seriously injured on the bed. Their eyes fluctuated slightly. They looked at Zhou Daocheng with gratitude, and they hurriedly thanked them. Perhaps they originally thought that after being seriously injured, they would be excluded from the corps, or that they would resign the agreement as an 8th level chi refining person. At least among casual cultivators, most of them focus on profit and don't talk about emotions. But Zhou Daocheng obviously wouldn't do this. A cold-blooded person who does cold-blooded things will definitely not get a true subordinate. As a force, it not only relies on the oppression of power, but also relies on the maintenance of emotions and human relationships. Moreover, with the power of Wu Gu, it is more than enough to support two 9th level chi refining monks. As if being touched, Tang Rong, who was standing aside, suddenly fell to his knees with a plop and grabbed Zhou Daocheng's trouser leg. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng was so frightened that he quickly took a few steps back and asked, "What are you doing?" He knew this person. It was the female monk who first opened Wu Yifang city together, named Tang Rong. and her relationship with Yuanzong seemed to be unusual. Tang Rong burst into tears and said, "Senior, I have something to ask you." Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. "Just ask. Why are you making such a big fuss?" He almost thought someone was going to attack him. "You say, Senior, I want to become a Taoist couple with Yuanzong. Please allow me." Well, Zhou Daocheng thought there was something big going on, but it turned out to be a matter between a man and a woman. Others around them also had strange expressions. They probably knew that Yuanzong and Tang Rong had an unusual relationship. They often quarreled on weekdays, unlike the relationship between ordinary monks. But I never expected that the relationship between the two would be so deep. When Yuanzong was seriously injured and his strength declined, Tang Rong was actually willing to become a Taoist companion with him. Zhou Daocheng said helplessly, "It's your own business to become a Taoist couple. There is no need to tell me." But the next moment, Yuanzong took the initiative to explain, "Senior, our idea is to quit the guard team and hunting team, and live in Foggy Valley as ordinary monks." Everyone's expressions changed slightly, and Yuanzong continued to sigh and said, "Senior, old Yuan, I have been a casual cultivator all my life, and I have lived this kind of wandering life with no guarantee. It is only now that I understand that this road is too difficult after all. So, I don't want my descendants to continue to follow this old path. If possible, I want to become a Taoist couple with Tang Rong, establish a small family of immortal cultivators, and make a living in Wuyifang City from now on, which can also be regarded as opening a path for future generations." Zhou Daocheng fell into deep thought and already understood the two people's thoughts. This is a very simple emotion and a real request. If you think about it from the perspective of the Lord of Fog Valley, he naturally does not want such a thing to happen, which will greatly weaken the power of his men. Originally, Wu Gu, plus Meng Yushan and Lin Yuan, had a total of 16 ninth-level qi refining experts. Now the two of them are seriously injured and their strength has dropped to the 8th level of qi refining. If Tang Rong withdraws again, she will leave with Yuanzong. As a result, the number of 9-level qi refining powerhouses was directly reduced by 3, plus Zizao, who had just broken through, and a 9-level qi refining powerhouse who had previously died at the hands of a 2nd-level monster. The guard team and the hunting team only have 11 captains of the 9th level of qi refining left, and their strength has dropped too much. In theory, Zhou Daocheng could directly reject the request of Yuanzong and Tang Rong, because the two had signed an agreement at the beginning, and it was a lifelong agreement. As long as Zhou Daocheng does not allow it, the two cannot leave on their own initiative. But Zhou Daocheng can't really stop this kind of thing. After all, you can't control others' love affairs even if you control the world. So after thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng said, "You want to become Taoist friends and start a family, I can agree." Hearing this, Yuanzong and Tang Rong both looked the same. But Zhou Daocheng continued, "But since you have signed the agreement, there is no such thing as leaving. Even if you leave the guard team and the hunting team, you are still people of Wugu." The two looked at each other, and for a moment they didn't understand what Zhou Daocheng meant. The others were the same, touching their chins thoughtfully, and were a little puzzled by Zhou Daocheng's approach. Only Wei Hanshan seemed to understand Zhou Daocheng's thoughts vaguely, and looked deeply at the Lord of the Mist Valley. Zhou Daocheng continued, "You can establish a family. I will provide you with help and teach you how to establish a family of immortal cultivation. And the cave and spiritual field in the 2nd valley will also be reserved for you." Chapter 229, Training Subordinates. However, after settling down in the future, you must still stay in Wugu. If necessary, you need to complete some tasks as a family. After listening to Zhou Daocheng, everyone understood what Zhou Daocheng meant. If before, they signed an agreement with Wugu as independent cultivators, then now, Yuanzong and Tang Rong are tied together and signed an agreement with Wugu Market as a family. It is similar to Ziad and Pavilion, Wang family and Zhu family. However, Yuanzong and Tang Rong have no background and cannot provide help to the market like other forces, and even need the help of Wugu. At this time, everyone realized that this is not a restriction, It is simply a benefit for the two. After understanding the pros and cons, Yuanzong and Tang Rong also showed joy on their faces and kept kneeling down to thank them. Zhou Daocheng quickly helped the two up. He actually had his own ideas about this matter. The development of Wugu market cannot only be seen in the present, but also in the long run. If these independent cultivators can combine with each other, establish a family of immortal cultivators, and settle down in the Fog Valley, this is also a good thing. A few decades later, this will be a family power that knows everything about it, and can develop together with the market, which is far more valuable than a single independent cultivator. After all, independent cultivators will die, and the family will continue to be passed down. Moreover, if the family power in the market is all his own people who know everything about it, the overall development will be easier to control. Therefore, he will take the initiative to agree to Yuanzong and Tang Rong's matter. However, there is only one person who looks unhappy. He is another cultivator who, like Yuanzong, was seriously injured and fell to the 8th level of qi refining. Everyone has also encountered the tragedy of life. Why did you not only find a wife, but also start a family? This is really unacceptable to him. His own failure is certainly uncomfortable, but the success of others is even more unacceptable. As if sensing his disappointment, Zhou Daocheng took the initiative to comfort him. Ahem, the arrangement for Yuanzong and Tang Rong also applies to you. Hearing this, a look of joy appeared on his face, but it only appeared for 2 seconds and then disappeared directly. What's the use of applying? I don't have a girlfriend. Of course, no one cares whether he has a girlfriend or not. Next, Yuanzong and Tang Rong became Taoist couples with the blessings of everyone, and withdrew from the guard team and hunting team. Some members of Yuanzong's hunting team joined other hunting teams, and some continued to follow Yuanzong and became guests of the family. Zhou Daocheng was also amused and confused. The family had not been established yet, but there were already several guests of the family. Afterwards, with the help of Zhou Daocheng, Yuanzong and Tang Rong opened a store in Wuyifang City as the foundation for the development of the family. This was also the only thing Zhou Daocheng could do. After all, the most important thing in the future was to reproduce offspring, expand the family, and expand the family. This requires the two of them to work hard. However, after this is over, Zhou Daocheng needs to worry about another thing. That is the power of the entire Wugu market. Although Zhao broke through the foundation and successfully refined the spirit puppet array, the overall strength has been greatly improved. However, the combat power of the 9th level of qi refining has been reduced a lot, which will bring great pressure. Now the market is in its development period, the scale is getting bigger and bigger, and more cultivators are coming and going. If there is no strong enough guard force, it is impossible to ensure the stability and safety of the market, which is a very serious problem. After all, it is impossible to let the foundation building strongmen come forward to solve the problem after something happens, which is somewhat embarrassing. Therefore, it is necessary to continue to improve the strength in the next period of time. For this matter, Zhou Daocheng also found Wei Hanshan and Meng Yushan specifically to ask for their opinions. But in the final analysis, there are roughly only two better solutions. The first is to continue to use the caves and spiritual fields of the second valley as before to absorb the surrounding scattered cultivators. But this method is no longer effective, because a large part of the scattered cultivators active in the surrounding area have joined the Wugu. As for those who are unwilling to join, they must have their own considerations, and it is difficult to attract them. Therefore, the road of absorbing casual cultivators has come to an end in a short period of time, and it is difficult to expand the power quickly. Then there is only another way, to improve strength and cultivate 9th level qi refining masters. Although Zhou Daocheng does not have many 9th level qi refining masters, there are quite a few 8th level qi refining masters, nearly 20 in total. Some of them joined as Lone Ranger casual cultivators and became the backbone of various hunting teams. Some of them were originally in the hunting team of 9th level qi refining masters and followed the leader to join Wugu. In fact, many people are very reliable and trustworthy. Moreover, there are also some people who have good talents and are relatively young. but they are stuck in the bottleneck and cannot break through due to insufficient cultivation resources. Zhou Daocheng is willing to take out cultivation resources to help them improve their strength. Perhaps he can cultivate a few more 9th level qi refining masters. However, Zhou Daocheng also has his own little thoughts. If he really wanted to cultivate the 9th level of qi, he would naturally prefer to invest resources in his family, or in some independent cultivators that he was familiar with. So, the first batch of people he trained did not choose the casual cultivators in the hunting team, but a group of his own people to train in secret. As for the candidates, first of all, they were people from the family, and a total of 2 were selected. They were the 4th brother Zhou Daocheng and the 2nd sister Zhao Yunzhi. As for why there were only 2 people, there was really no way. There were only a few people left in the family, most of whom were old people and children. There were only 1 or 2 people of the right age who had the opportunity to break through to a higher level. Needless to say, Zhou Daocheng had an absolute talent in refining weapons. It was precisely because he spent most of his time on refining weapons that his cultivation speed was relatively slow, and he was still only at the 8th level of qi refining. However, Zhou Daocheng had a good spiritual root talent and was still very young. If there was a large supply of resources, there should be a high probability of a breakthrough. As for Zhao Yunzhi, he was one of the only 5 Shao generation left in the Zhou family. He was also a weapon refiner with 80% qi refining cultivation. He was the most important backbone of the spirit weapon pavilion in the Wugu market, except Zhou Daocheng. There was no need to hesitate when choosing these 2 people. Even if there was no such opportunity, Zhou Daocheng would provide them with a lot of training materials. As for the choice of others, Zhou Daocheng selected a group of his former subordinates, that is, Bai Kaiyulan, Baldi Huanglong, Wu Xiangling, Huan Yang, and Zhalan. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, The Land of Yunqi. All his strength is at the 8th level of qi refining. He had been staying in Bailin Lake before, but was recently taken to Wugu by Zhou Daocheng. Compared to the others, Zhou Daocheng was obviously more at ease with the 5 of them, for no other reason than simply because he had used the mystical magic on them. With the restrictions of the secret method, it is easier for them to become confidants and easier to control. And there is another very important point. The 5 of them are all very talented, except for Huanglong, who has some difficulties in breaking through due to problems with his skills. The others all have great potential. Therefore, after Zhou Daocheng took them over, he arranged for them all to have a cave in the spiritual medicine garden, and prepared the corresponding formations to provide a large amount of the training resources they needed. Their strength is generally at the peak of the 8th level of qi refining, so the next task is to break through. If there are no accidents, you should be able to successfully break through to the 9th level of qi refining within 2 to 3 years. At the same time, according to their own combat characteristics, magic weapons can be specially refined for them to enhance their strength. Calculated in this way, 7-8 level qi refining experts are being trained at the same time. This is also Zhou Daocheng's limit, that is, he has established Wu Yifang City, and his income from spiritual stones has increased a lot. Otherwise it would be difficult for him to provide them with training. Even so, it was only through gritting his teeth that he could come up with so much cultivation resources, which even consumed a lot of his spiritual honey. But as long as everything goes well, these efforts are worth it and will even bring greater value in the future. Then, while Zhou Daocheng was working hard and striving for the future of Wu Yifang City, an acquaintance suddenly came to his door. On this day, Zhou Daocheng was feeding chickens in the spiritual beast garden when he suddenly felt a powerful aura appearing outside the foggy valley. When he rushed over, he saw a familiar face. The leader of the Desu sect, Lin Zioan. Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows and asked, "How come fellow Taoist Lin is free to come here? Has another monk been caught in the slave trading market?" Lin Zioan's face darkened, and he did not respond to Zhou Daocheng's joke, but said directly, Do you still remember our previous deal? Zhou Daocheng was attentively and asked tentatively, "Come for Pan He?" Lin Ziwen nodded and said, "You help me trap Pan He and kill him, and I will give you 5 wisps of earth evil Yunqi." Zhou Daocheng's eyes moved slightly. He looked at Lin Ziwen in front of him, and suddenly said, "Fellow Taoist Lin, this is not impossible, but I have a question. If you can't answer it, then I'm sorry that I can't help." Lin Ziwen frowned slightly and said, "What doubts are there? Why are you so obsessed with Pan He?" "Of course it's because he robbed my Disusek's magical weapon, the bone flag." "Do you think I will believe it?" Zhou Daocheng said coldly. "A casual cultivator who has just broken through the foundation building has the courage to break into the Disusect? Moreover, as a casual cultivator, how did he know about the most precious treasure of the Disusect?" And he entered the ancestral land with ease and took away the second lethal magic weapon, the bone flag. He never left after that and kept hanging around the area. Could it be that he has feelings for you and is reluctant to leave? After asking these questions, Lin Ziwen's face became a little ugly. After hesitating for a long time, he let out a long sigh. "Lord of Fog Valley, you are more cautious than I thought, but these matters are, after all, the private affairs of my Disusect and Pan He." Zhou Daocheng looked at him deeply and interrupted, "This is indeed your private matter. I shouldn't have pried into it, and I really didn't intend to pry into it at first. You should understand this." This was indeed the case. Lin Ziwen's reason was far-fetched. Zhou Daocheng didn't believe it from the beginning, but the matter had nothing to do with him, so he didn't say anything, but some recent discoveries forced him to get to the bottom of it. "Then, why are you asking about this matter again, Your Excellency?" Lin Ziwen asked with some confusion. Zhou Daocheng paused and said calmly, "Recently, things have not been peaceful around Wu Yifang City. There is a vague yin energy lying deep in the eastern Great Wilderness, and a large number of monsters have come to the periphery. Maybe something happened. This kind of thing happens all the time in the world of immortality. There's no need to make a fuss." Lin Ziwen's tone was calm and he didn't seem to care. But Zhou Daocheng vaguely noticed that when Zhou Daocheng mentioned this matter, Lin Ziwen's eyes flashed with a look of shock, but he quickly covered it up. Seeing that the other party was unwilling to disclose it, Zhou Daocheng continued, "This is really not a big deal, but I recently discovered that Pan He, the white bone flag, often appears around, seeming to be exploring the outbreak of Yunqi sect. Master Lin, what do you think he is looking for? And coincidentally, Your Excellency also came to see me today, wanting to surround and kill Pan He together. This has to make me suspicious." If Zhou Daocheng only hinted before, now he has almost brought the matter out in the open and told Lin Ziwen clearly, "I have already discovered what you are doing. There is no need to hide it anymore." Lin Ziwen sighed after hearing this, and obviously understood that if he wanted to use the help of the Lord of Fog Valley this time, some secrets would not be hidden. What's more, even if he continues to hide, Zhou Daocheng will not give up due to his character. He will definitely track Lin Ziwen and Pan He to find out what happened. After all, the area where Yunqi broke out was very close to Wu Yifang City, so even to protect his own safety, he would definitely go there to investigate. Long before, when the Yunqi broke out for the first time, Zhou Daocheng asked his elder brother Zhou Daocheng to go and investigate. There must be something wrong with the unexpected. If he can't check it clearly, he will definitely not be at ease. After that, he found that Pan He often appeared nearby and was also exploring the situation of Yunqi. Zhou Daocheng had a rough guess about the matter. There is a high probability that he is looking for something important, which may be a natural treasure or a secret ruins. The arrival of Lin Ziwen today made him more determined to guess. His eyes were like eagle eyes, staring at Lin Ziwen, as if he wanted to see some information from his face. Seeing that the Lord of the Fog Valley did not give in, he looked like he would never agree to the siege and killing of Pan He if he didn't make it clear. In this regard, Lin Ziwen was also quite helpless. After pondering for a long time, he waved his hand helplessly. "Forget it. It's okay to tell you about this, but I hope you don't spread it out. Of course, please believe in my character." Zhou Daocheng said righteously, "Well, your guess is not wrong. We are indeed looking for something. Lin Ziyuan admitted Zhou Daocheng's statement, then paused and asked, "Then do you know which force came to this place 1,000 years ago?" Chapter 231 Xuanian Sect. Zhou Daocheng's eyes narrowed, his thoughts kept churning in his mind, and a large number of familiar forces appeared in his mind. However, after just a brief thought, he ruled them all out, and at the same time he was still very confused, because in his memory, even a long time ago, few forces settled in the eastern wilderness. Even thousands of years ago, where the foggy valley is now, it was still a wild and unexplored area. It was not until later, after powerful people drove away the nearby third-level monsters, that monks gradually moved over. Therefore, when Lin Ziyuan asked this question, he was really confused. Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, "I wonder, is there any powerful force that once regarded itself as the sect's headquarters?" Lin Ziyuan seemed to have guessed Zhou Daocheng's reaction, and smiled and shook his head. Then, he reminded me meaningfully, "That's not the case, but there is a force that once fell into despair, fled all the way here and entered the eastern great wilderness." Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng's eyes suddenly lit up. After thinking for a moment, he slowly uttered 3 words, "Xuanian Sect." This is an ancient name that has not been mentioned by anyone for a long time, but many older generation cultivators still remember this sect. The Xuanian Sect was the last Zaifu sect to rule this area before the Qingshan Sect, and its status was similar to that of the Qingshan Sect today. Back then, Xuanian Sect had 5 powerful men from the Purple Mansion and a giant bone spirit boat that was comparable to the peak of the Z Mansion in the later period. The overall strength was very powerful. It is even much stronger than the Qingshan Sect today. But back then, the people of the Xuanian Sect acted arrogantly. In the process of robbing the immortal relics, they provoked the Purple Mansion forces from all directions at the same time. In the end, they were besieged and suffered heavy casualties. In the end, an unknown battle broke out in the Purple Mansion, resulting in the death of 4 of the 5 powerful men of the Purple Mansion of the Xuanian Sect, and the remaining 1 fled. During the escape, the bone spirit boat was forcibly broken into pieces, and the last Zaifu monk was beaten to death. At this point, a generation of powerful Zaifu forces was lost in the long river of history. However, I heard that in the end, there was a remnant of the Xuanian Sect that escaped the pursuit of other Zaifu sects and entered the eastern great wilderness to survive. However, after repeated searches by various forces, no trace of the remnants of the Xuanian Sect was found. At the same time, the Qingshan Sect and other forces rose up, attracting the attention of all parties, so in the end nothing was done. So in the past thousands of years, if any powerful force has come nearby and may have left relics and inheritance, it may be the Xuanian Sect. Lin Ziyuan smiled and nodded, sighing. It seems that fellow Taoist is quite knowledgeable. Yes, there is indeed a ruin here, which should be the ruins of Xuanian Sect, but if you want to enter it, you must have Panhe's bone flag. Zhou Daocheng frowned and asked in confusion, "Why do you need your Desu Sect's magic weapon to enter the ruins of Xuanian Sect?" To be honest, my Desu Sect's orthodoxy was established by a descendant of the Xuanian Sect, so I know some secrets. Zhou Daocheng glanced at Lin Ziyuan in surprise. He didn't expect that such private information would be revealed directly. He couldn't help but ask, "Fellow Taoist Lin, if you tell me this kind of news, aren't you afraid of me snitching on you? Have you ever surrounded me? The forces that killed the Xuanian Sect should be very interested in this news, right?" Ha ha ha. Lin Ziyuan laughed a few times and said nonchalantly, "Thousands of years have passed. Even the strong men of Zaifu who besieged Xuanian Sect back then are dead, and Xuanian Sect has long since disappeared in the long river of history. Where is the hatred? What's more, even the Xuanian Sect itself didn't know exactly which forces besieged the Xuanian Sect, let alone us. So even if the news leaks out, it doesn't matter to us, the Desu Sect. However, the only trouble is that I am afraid that the ruins that originally belonged to us will be snatched away by others." As he said that, Lin Ziyuan gave Zhou Daocheng a meaningful look. Zhou Daocheng was thoughtful and immediately realized that since the other party dared to say it directly, he was naturally fearless. "I see," I didn't expect there to be such a secret inside. So what Pan He is looking for now are the remains of the Xuanian sect? Zhou Daocheng asked. Lin Ziyuan's eyes showed a sharp look, and he said, yes, this guy got the news from nowhere, robbed the second-level magic weapon of our Dsu sect, and also wanted to rob the opportunity in the ruins. He really deserves to be killed. Then if you tell me the information, you won't be afraid of me snatching the opportunity? Hearing this question, Lin Ziyuan paused and said, even without this conversation, I would most likely have taken the initiative to win over fellow Taoists and join us in the exploration of the Xuanian sect's ruins. Why? 2 reasons, Lin Ziyuan said seriously. First of all, Pan He, without your help, it would be difficult to kill him with my own ability. It would be impossible to recapture the bone flag. Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly. If the bone flag is really a necessary condition for entering the ruins, then if he cannot continue Pan, he will naturally not be able to enter the ruins. Anything else? Secondly, it is not an easy task to enter the ruins. In addition to the bone flags, there is also a terrifying Yunqi formation surrounding the Xuanian sect's secret realm. It turns out to be a formation. Zhou Daocheng thought thoughtfully. No wonder the other party had his own ideas. It seemed that he also had his own little plans. Yes, this is a special formation formed by Yunqi. It is extremely difficult to crack. Even if either of us goes alone, there is a high probability that we will not be able to enter it. Lin Ziyuan explained. Only by relying on our Dsu sect's understanding of the ruins and the means to deal with Yunqi, combined with your array skills, can we enter it. Zhou Daocheng nodded, with a smile on his face. So, in this case, we must cooperate with each other to enter it? That's right. Lin Ziyuan seemed to be worried that Zhou Daocheng would not believe it, and solemnly promised, I can swear that I will never lie about the method of entering the ruins. Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng also believed it a little, slightly, and had some ideas in his mind. This is a relic of the Purple Mansion Force. The treasures, skills, secrets, elixirs, natural materials and treasures that may be hidden in a ... are all far beyond imagination. With such a huge benefit, Zhou Daocheng had to be greedy. More importantly, he had previously explored the location where the Yunqi exploded, and there were indeed signs of arrays. So what Lin Ziyuan said is very likely to be true. After thinking for a long time, Zhou Daocheng said, okay, I agree to this cooperation. I will find a way to trap Pan He, but the matter of snatching the white bone banner can only be left to me, Your Excellency. Chapter 232 Become a Taoist Couple? Lin Ziyuan looked happy and said, no problem, as long as you can trap him in the formation, I will take care of the rest. Ahem, there is one more thing. Not to snatch the bone banner, but to take it back. Oh, take it back. Zhou Daocheng smiled helplessly and didn't care about these details. No matter what grudges and hatreds they have, it has nothing to do with Wugu. He just stands from the perspective of a third party and rationally thinks about the pros and cons. However, Lin Ziyuan was still a little worried in the end and asked a question. Fellow Taoist of the Wugu Lord, do you have a way to introduce Pan He to the Wugu market? This person is extremely cautious and I am afraid he will not be easily fooled. Zhou Daocheng waved his hand and said, don't worry about this fellow Taoist Lin, I have my own way. Zhou Daocheng's mouth curled up a smile. He may not have any way to deal with other people, but for the love brain, isn't it easy to do it? One day later. A piece of news suddenly spread in the Wugu market. The Lord of Fog Valley is about to become a Taoist couple with the foundation building casual cultivator Flame Charming Snake Princess. As soon as this news came out, it immediately spread around the entire Fog Valley market and became a topic of discussion among the cultivators. However, most cultivators still have a skeptical attitude towards this news, because it is too sudden and too unbelievable. Many people not only do not believe this news, but are also waiting to see the fate of the person who broke the false news. After all, the matter of making up the Fog Valley Lord and the foundation building casual cultivator is not a big deal, but it is definitely not a small matter. If you want to investigate, it is not too much to kill this person. Moreover, everyone knows the character of Flame Charming Snake Princess very well. Killing people is just a piece of cake, and she may not even blink an eye. And the Lord of Fog Valley has always been extremely mysterious. As the Lord of a market, how can he be a simple person? Moreover, there is another very important reason why everyone does not believe it. That is, Flame Charming Snake Princess has disappeared for several years and has not appeared in front of everyone for a long time. How could she be connected with the Lord of Fog Valley? So many people just regarded this as a joke. But soon, things took a turn. It is said that among the guards and hunting teams of Fog Valley Market, there is extremely hidden news that Flame Charming Snake Princess seems to be really in Fog Valley. If the previous illusory information was not believed by everyone, but if it was spread by Fog Valley itself, then it had to be considered. For a time, all kinds of rumors were spread more and more crazy. The ordinary and boring cultivation life of many cultivators has also added a lot of fun. After all, it is related to the love and hatred of two big figures, and it is difficult not to attract attention. More importantly, this matter does not seem to be only about the Lord of Fog Valley and Flame Charming Snake Princess. It is likely to involve the third foundation building strongman Bai Gu Fan Pan He. The story of Pan He of the White Bone Banner and Flame Charming Snake Princess has long been widely spread in the area of Beifang City. Although there is no clear news that the two have become Taoist partners, their relationship is definitely not ordinary. Many people directly assume that Flame Charming Snake Princess is Pan He of the White Bone Banner. But now that this news has spread, many cultivators immediately smell a different atmosphere. Throughout the ages, in addition to cultivating immortals and becoming a Taoist, the affairs of men and women are also the most worth talking about, not to mention the love and hatred between the strong. In a hidden cave around the Wugu Mountains, an old man slowly opened his eyes, looked at the news on the communication stone, and touched his beard thoughtfully. Hidden here is the leader of the Dsu sect, Lin Zioan. You want to use this method to force Pan He of the White Bone Banner out. Are you underestimating this person too much? But using women may really have miraculous effects. Lin Zioan thought silently, and finally replied on the communication stone. Give him a helping hand! No one expected that after a while, the news not only did not disappear, but was further confirmed. Especially the news about Flame Charming Snake Princess in Fog Valley. And the person who confirmed the news, the identity and status are extraordinary. They are the elders of Dsu sect and Jin sect. It is said that they once tried to invade Fog Valley with the foundation building masters of the sect, but were finally stopped by the master of Fog Valley with a formation. At that time, a foundation building master appeared, suspected to be Flame Charming Snake Princess. As soon as this news came out, it immediately set off a huge wave. If many people were still skeptical before, now there is no doubt. Many people who eat melons seem to have begun to determine the authenticity of this matter. If Flame Charming Snake Princess is really in Fog Valley, then there may be 1,000 threads between her and the master of Fog Valley. In this case, the top of the head of the White Bone Banner Pan He seems to have added a color. In such news soon reached the ears of the White Bone Banner Pan He. To the east of Wugu Market, in a first-class cave formation called Earth Spirit House, more than a dozen monks were sitting around. The leader was Pan He, the eerie and terrifying White Bone Banner. Boss, the news is going viral now, and it doesn't look fake. Stop talking nonsense. How can you believe this rumor, and how dare the Lord of Wugu do such a thing? Isn't he afraid that we will overturn his Wugu? Haha, I think someone just wants to make trouble and deliberately made up this kind of thing. The members of his hunting team had different opinions, but Pan He of the White Bone Banner remained calm. Although Zhou Daocheng called him a love-brained person, it did not mean that he had no brains. On the contrary, he could become a strong foundation-building person, so his IQ was definitely not low. After a long time, Pan He said coldly, "There is no need to pay attention to these news." Although the Snake Queen is indeed in the Fog Valley, the matter of becoming a Taoist couple, it should be something someone deliberately made up. You want to provoke me, Pan He of the White Bone Banner, with these few words. Does the other party underestimate me too much? It's just a clumsy trick. My Taoist heart is stable. How could I be affected by this? Pan His eyes were cold, and he looked down on the world, very indifferent. But not long after, another piece of information spread. And this piece of information was well-founded and contained a lot of information. Even many people who didn't believe it at first shut up after seeing this message. Why did Flame Snake Queen want to become a Taoist couple with the Lord of the Fog Valley? It is said that it is because of the physical condition of Flame Charming Snake Princess. The beautiful red snake tattoo is not just a decoration, but an extremely terrifying means, with a very terrifying power, but it is extremely difficult to suppress. Every time it erupts, it will bring great pain. Even the foundation-building strongman Flame Charming Snake Princess finds it difficult to resist. Chapter 233 Pan He falls into the trap. However, the Lord of Fog Valley can use the power of the formation to suppress the explosion of this energy, and even help Flame Snake Lady tame and control this power, especially under the dual cultivation of men and women. The power in the red snake tattoo can be made gentler and easier to control. Finally, a piece of information was revealed. The tattoo of Flame Snake Princess is not just one red snake, but another ice snake, whose position corresponds to that of the red snake. Histolda. Damn it, this was the almost identical reaction of all the monks after hearing the news. What surprised them even more was that it came from Foggy Valley and the content was well-founded and extremely true. Boom, it was still the two-link cottage, and a terrifying spiritual energy directly lifted the roof. The powerful force directly destroyed the formation. A large number of cracks appeared in the formation plate, and it seemed that it was about to be destroyed. The rest of the surrounding hunting team members retreated away, too frightened to come close, and watched with distress as the formation was destroyed. They spent a lot of money to buy this, and it is expensive but not marketable. It will be difficult to buy it next time. At this time, there was anger in Pan He's eyes, and he clenched the bone flag tightly in his right hand. A terrifying and gloomy aura circulated around him, as if countless ghosts were roaring. The gloomy dead fish eyes were covered with strands of blood, like a ferocious beast that chooses people to devour, and seems to be about to explode in the next moment. Okay, Lord of the Misty Valley, I have already warned you to stay away from Snake Lady. Since you don't listen, don't blame me for being ruthless. The sound of gnashing teeth echoed in the dark and deep mountain forest, like the whisper of an evil spirit. Although he and Flame Snake Girl have no physical relationship and do not know the specific situation of the tattoo, he still knows some things that others do not know. For example, the red snake tattoo is indeed not a decoration. This terrible method will bring huge pain to Flame Snake Princess. Secondly, Flame Snake Princess does not only have a red snake tattoo, but also has another ice snake tattoo. It wasn't that he had actually seen the ice snake tattoo, but that he had seen Snake Girl using ice attribute spells. Now in most cases, she will only use the red snake tattoo, because her control is weak. If she often uses two kinds of tattoos, it is likely to shorten the interval between the outbreak of the double snake tattoo. But once, when fighting against a powerful mid-level second-level monster, Pan He saw Flame Snake Girl using the power of the ice snake. How did the Lord of Fog Valley know such obscure news? Thinking of what might happen, anger spreads in my heart like a poisonous snake, swallowing up the only reason! That night, a figure in black robe entered the Foggy Valley. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng, who was practicing in the cave, opened his eyes, raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, and said lightly, "I took the bait." But at this moment, a trace of curiosity arose in his heart. What is the relationship between Pan He and Yanmai Sheji? As a strong foundation builder, and according to the Dessou sect leader, an extremely vigilant and deep-thinking foundation builder, could he not see that this is a method to provoke generals? Since he knew it was a method to provoke generals, why would he be willing to be deceived and come to Wuyifang City in person? Is it really because of the deepest feelings? Although Zhou Daocheng was confused, he didn't delve too much into it. Maybe there was an unknown story between the two. The most important thing at the moment is to deal with this person and prepare for the next exploration of the ruins. In the secret cave, Lin Zioen couldn't help but let out a sigh when he saw the message from the communication stone. How could it be so easy to lure Pan He, the bone flag, to Wuyifang City? At least in Lindsay Owen's opinion. No foundation building expert would be willing to fall into a trap because of a woman. Therefore, he could only think that the Lord of Foggy Valley was capable. A quarter of an hour later, Lindsay Owen rushed to Wu Yifang City. When he was near the edge of the formation, the clouds and fog automatically dispersed, making way for a path. Lindsay Owen's eyes flickered, and after a few seconds of hesitation, he took the initiative to walk in. He was still very afraid of the powerful formation in front of him. If he was not careful, he might fall into the formation, especially last time. The method used by the Lord of Foggy Valley to change the day and the surrounding terrain in an instant was still unforgettable in his memory. But in the current situation, I know that there is no conflict of interest between the two parties, and the other party does not dare to deal with him easily, so I dare to enter it. Following the dispersing fog, Lindsay Owen moved forward, and finally came to the top of a mountain peak, where he saw the Lord of the Fog Valley wearing a purple robe and a bronze mask. Pan, he came in? Lindsay Owen asked straight to the point. Zhou Daocheng waved his hand gently, and the clouds and fog dispersed in front of him. In a long, narrow and complicated passage, Pan he was suddenly there. Seeing this, Lindsay Owen looked happy and couldn't help but said, "It's really a good trick." Zhou Daocheng's face did not change and he said calmly, "I have done everything I should do, and now it depends on your methods." "No problem. Just leave this matter to me. With this kid's strength, old man, I can still solve it." Zhou Daocheng slightly, he still believed this. The strength of this Dsu sect leader should be similar to that of the woman with the red snake tattoo. He is a strong person with the third level of foundation building strength. Pan He's strength is slightly weaker, and he only has the first or second level of foundation building, and a large part of his methods rely on the bone flags. Trapped in Zhou Daocheng's formation, Pan He had nowhere to escape, and he was probably not Lindsay Owen's opponent. Lindsay Owen did not attack directly, but with the help of Zhou Daocheng, he took the initiative to hide in the midst of the formation, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Although Zhou Daocheng said that he would not help, the two sides are now on the same front after all, and it is also right to provide some convenience. Otherwise, if Pan He ran away, Zhou Daocheng would really have a hard time dealing with it. Even if he helped Lindsay Owen kill Pan He when necessary, it would not be impossible. After all, Pan He has no benefit to him, and is even a huge destabilizing factor. Being sandwiched between him and the woman with the red snake tattoo, the originally harmonious cooperation has become precarious because of his existence. Moreover, just like the previous concerns, if there is only the woman with the red snake tattoo, the two sides are evenly matched, and Zhou Daocheng is still confident of maintenance balance. However, once Pan He is added, the strength of the woman with the red snake tattoo is too strong, and it can already threaten the safety of the Fog Valley. If he couldn't completely get rid of Pan He while the woman with the red snake tattoo was away, it would be even more difficult to solve the problem in the future. While he was thinking, Lindsay Owen had already found a perfect angle and was ready for a sneak attack. The terrifying power of the third level of foundation building was condensed in the palm of his hand, and it seemed to be about to burst out in an instant. As the master of the formation, Zhou Daocheng could clearly feel how powerful this power was. 1 second, 2 seconds. After the air condensed for a few seconds, the bottom layer suddenly exploded with a bursting sound, and the palm full of yin qi, wrapped in black mana, instantly broke through the air, burst out from the clouds, and attacked Pan He's back. Chapter 234 Suppression. The moment he felt the power, Pan He reacted immediately and turned around to try to resist, but the consequences were predictable. This palm directly caused Pan He to suffer a great loss. The magic power he had just gathered was directly shattered by the leader of the Dsu sect. In fact, Pan He had already prepared for it, expecting that there might be strong men ambushing around, but he didn't expect that it would be the leader of the Dsu sect who came in person. The gap between the two sides was huge, and even if he fought hard, it was still difficult to resist. But the moment he was attacked, he immediately retreated, leaned against the wall behind him, and looked at Lindsay Owen vigilantly, with a trace of fear in his eyes. At the same time, he quickly activated the white bone flag in his hand, and a large number of monster remnant souls gathered around, constantly entangled and drawn, and stared at Lin Ziyuan with scarlet eyes. But even the monster remnant souls with low intelligence probably knew the strength of the person in front of them, and they were a little afraid for a while and did not dare to step forward easily. Lin Ziyuan's eyes were calm. He just glanced at these residual souls lightly, then snorted casually, and condensed the dark and gloomy magic power in his palm again. Zhou Daocheng looked at the black air condensed in Lin Ziyuan's hand, frowned and muttered to himself, "Second level spell, Yin Shock Law? Real spells can only be used by foundation-building cultivators, because only foundation-building cultivators can release spiritual energy to cast spells. As for the spells of chi-refining cultivators, they are just children playing around, with very ordinary power and relatively ordinary effects. But the spells of foundation-building cultivators are completely different. They are extremely precious and rare. Even in many powerful forces, the number of powerful spells is very small. Some forces can rely on a spell to make a great reputation, so the value and significance of spells are no worse than formations, talismans, and life instruments. The Yin Shock Law of the earthly evil sect is just like this. The spiritual energy condensed is cold and bone-biting. The sharp claws have strong attacking and killing capabilities and can easily break the defense of the strong. It has a strong reputation and is a very important spell of the earthly evil sect. So when Lin Ziyuan made a move, Zhou Daocheng immediately recognized it. When he made a move just now, he also used this spell, so Pan He, the white bone flag, was completely unable to resist and suffered serious injuries. Pan He still looked ugly at this time. He quickly condensed his magic power, and the white bone flag released a large amount of black hair, which surrounded him to resist. But when the sharp claws grabbed his chest, he still retreated repeatedly, and the spiritual energy in his chest was directly dissipated. If it weren't for the second level magic weapon white bone flag forcibly blocking it, I'm afraid Pan He would have been seriously injured again. Zhou Daocheng was also quite surprised to see this scene. He never thought that the gap between the two was so big. After nearly 2 or 3 moves, Pan He had already fallen into a disadvantage. Moreover, he could see that, purely in terms of realm, Pan He was far inferior and almost completely suppressed. In terms of background, Pan He was also completely inferior to Lin Ziyuan, and the only thing he could show was the white bone banner. But Pan He was not the only one who had a second-level magic weapon. Lin Ziyuan was blocked by the magic weapon for 2 consecutive moves, and he snorted coldly, and directly took out the Earth Yin compass, which made his whole body full of momentum, and the Yin Qi became even stronger. The quality of the Earth Yin compass was also extremely high. Zhou Daocheng had seen it last time. The Yin Qi released could directly break through the fog of the second-level maze, which was extremely domineering. However, this powerful second-level magic weapon was not only capable of releasing Yin Qi and breaking the formation. I saw the mana input into the Earth Yin compass, and the gray-white spiritual energy flowed, as if there were ghosts rising in the fog, and the gloomy breath surrounded the surroundings, allowing the leader of the Dazhu sect to drive it. The remnant soul of the white bone banner was full of hostility, but in this thick yin energy, there were also signs of retreat, and it seemed that it was also greatly affected. Seeing that he was at a disadvantage, Pan He looked grim and said coldly, "Old thing, do you have to hold on to me?" HMPH, stop talking nonsense. You took my Dazhu sect's things and want to end it all? Do you think there is no one in my Dazhu sect? Lin Ziyuan said coldly with undiminished momentum. The things of the Dazhu sect? Pan He sneered, as expected of a big force. You are really thick-skinned, and I can't compare with you in this respect. Stop talking nonsense. Not only the white bone banner must stay today, but even your life must stay here today. Lin Ziyuan's eyes were sinister, and his means were extremely cruel. He once again input a large amount of spiritual energy into the compass. Compass is not a pure attack or defense magic weapon, but it continuously releases yin energy around the body, thus forming a special field. In this area of yin qi, the enemy will be greatly suppressed, but Lin Ziyuan can use yin qi to greatly improve his own strength. This method has increased the chances of Lin Ziyuan, who already had an advantage. However, Since Pan He dared to come in person, he actually had some confidence. It is very likely that he has some special means to turn defeat into victory. Lin Ziwen and Zhou Daocheng were also waiting to see what cards Pan He had hidden, until Pan He opened his throat and shouted, "Flame charming snake princess, come out and help me quickly. I have found out the details of your red snake tattoo." Zhou Daocheng was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Pan He's confidence in entering the fog valley was actually a woman with a red snake tattoo. Seeing this, Zhou Daocheng's face suddenly became strange. The other party shouting, "Seems to be useless. Flame charming, snake princess, no matter what your relationship with the Lord of Fog Valley is, as long as you sever the relationship today, I, Pan He, will forgive you and help you solve the tattoo problem." Pan He's forehead was covered with cold sweat, his voice was trembling slightly, but his expression was still firm, as if he expected that flame-charming Snake Princess would definitely take action. "Snake Princess, I have already found out about that force. This is indeed a talisman method, but it is not completely unsolvable. And I can be sure that this is definitely not just a means of torturing people. It is an extremely terrifying secret method. As long as you can master it, your strength will definitely increase greatly." Boom, boom! Exclamation mark bang. Zhou Daocheng listened with relish, but Lin Ziwen seemed to be looking at an idiot and ignored what he was saying. Instead, the attack in his hand became more fierce, continuously releasing yin qi, causing injuries one after another, and Pan He couldn't raise his head. But he seemed unwilling to give up, and was sure that the woman with the red snake tattoo would definitely help her, so he kept struggling. But his persistence was not very effective. Another residual soul of a monster formed by a white bone banner was shattered, making a sharp and shrill cry, and then disappeared in the yin qi. Pan He's face turned pale, his breath was weak, and he couldn't help but take a step back. This white bone banner is not an ordinary magic weapon, but Pan He's life magic weapon. While making him more powerful, it also uses his spiritual energy to warm up and connect with each other, so the damage to the magic weapon also has a great impact on him. Chapter 235 Killing Pan He. Every time one of the remaining souls in the bone flags was killed, Pan He's aura became weaker and they retreated back one after another, but he was a strong foundation builder after all, and he still managed to endure it. But his face looked very ugly. He glanced around continuously, seeming to be still waiting for Yan my snake girl to appear. Zhou Daocheng touched his nose. Pan He was so confident that in this situation, he had been waiting for the help of the woman with the red snake tattoo. He was almost certain that she would come to the rescue. It seemed that the relationship between the two parties was indeed extraordinary, and this should be the case. If the woman with the red snake tattoo was in Foggy Valley now, there is a high probability that this siege would never happen. On the one hand, no matter how bad the two are, they are still good friends. Two foundation building experts working together are far stronger and more intimidating than one foundation building expert. Even if the two really become Taoist couples, even ordinary foundation building forces will not be their opponents. On the other hand, it can be heard from Pan He's words that he has indeed found out many secrets of red snake tattoos. This information was of vital importance to the woman with the red snake tattoo. That was why Pan He was so confident that he would definitely save him. But no matter how confident he is, unfortunately, his confidence is not in Foggy Bottom today. At least for a short period of time, there should be no return to Foggy Bottom. Zhou Daocheng shook his head regretfully. This young man was still too young, and he placed his own safety on others at will, so that now he has no way to heaven and no way to earth. Seeing that Pan He was still persistent and still looking forward to the appearance of Yan Maishiji, Zhou Daocheng couldn't bear it and planned to give some advice. Opening the surrounding clouds, Zhou Daocheng's figure appeared, standing on the top of the mountain. This was the battlefield. Pan He's eyes suddenly brightened, and he quickly looked over, his pupils suddenly brightening, thinking it was the woman with the red snake tattoo who appeared. "Yan, my Shiji, you finally." Just as he was about to call his name, he saw a long purple figure wearing a bronze mask. His face immediately became gloomy, and his tone of voice became full of hostility. "Lord of Fog Valley, where has Yen my snake lady gone?" Zhou Daocheng glanced at him lightly and said, "Snake lady? She just had a riot with the double snake tattoo. I personally helped her suppress it. She has fallen asleep now. I hope you won't disturb him." It was almost visible to the naked eye that the moment Pan He heard these words, his pale face turned red quickly and his breath was extremely unstable. When he was at a disadvantage, he actually showed a flaw again and was repelled by Lin Ziyuan with one move. Lin Ziyuan just glanced at Zhou Daocheng in surprise, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This guy has good skills. I have worked hard for a long time, but his words are not as useful as him. Zhou Daocheng did not stop and continued to stimulate Pan He, saying, "I am here to thank Taoist Pan He for the kindness of Shiji. However, with my help, Shiji's burning body was relieved a lot, but she was still very tired." "King, I can't move now and can't come here in person. I hope fellow Taoist can forgive me." "Asshole." "Account. Oh, by the way, Snake Ji also asked me to bring you a message. He said he only treats you as a younger brother. You are a good person." Boom. The yin evil claw pierced his chest. Pan He groaned and could no longer speak. He opened his eyes wide and looked at the hole in his chest, his eyes full of disbelief. Zhou Daocheng's provocative words involved a lot of his thoughts, allowing Lin Ziyuan to find loopholes many times and directly hit the vital point with one blow. Until the moment he fell, Pan He stared at Zhou Daocheng standing on the top of the mountain, full of hatred, anger and unwillingness. Zhou Daocheng touched his nose. He didn't expect this little trick to be so effective and directly determine the victory. It was really unexpected. Even Lin Ziyuan couldn't help but sigh. It's really the attack that comes second and the mind that comes first. If the art of attacking the mind is used with proficiency, the effect will be even greater than a powerful spell. However, Zhou Daocheng also knows that this method should only be useful for love brains. If it is replaced by an experienced and hard-hearted foundation builder, it should have no effect at all. As the battle ended, Zhou Daocheng also walked down from the top of the mountain and looked at Pan He with emotion. A long-famous foundation-building expert actually died in Foggy Valley like this. If this news spread, it might make many people sigh. Pan He looked at the figure of the visitor, his eyes turned slightly, but as his breath became more and more depressed, the emotion in his eyes also dissipated a lot, and instead there was a trace of clarity. It wasn't until this moment that he regained his clarity. Thinking back to what Zhou Daocheng had just said, he realized that it was full of loopholes and vaguely reacted. In the end, Guang stared at Zhou Daocheng and said only one sentence, "You provoke me, Snake Princess. Isn't in Wugu?" Zhou Daocheng sighed. This seemed to be a question, but he was extremely confident. It was obvious that Pan He had already reacted. At this point, Pan He was about to die soon. Zhou Daocheng did not want to deceive him anymore, and said seriously, "Fellow Taoist Pan, you are also considered a person. You were born as a casual cultivator, but you can break through the foundation building. How many people in the world can do this?" In the past few years, he has become even more powerful and famous, and is widely respected by monks. He is a well-known and powerful senior, so I am not willing to deceive you before you die. Lin Ziyuan glanced at Zhou Daocheng in surprise. At this time, he still had to perform such a sensational drama? Zhou Daocheng's eyes were deep. He slowly knelt down, sighed melancholy, and said, "Shiji asked me to bring you a message." Pan He, who was almost on the verge of death, actually recovered a little strength at this moment, grabbed Zhou Daocheng's robe, and uttered 3 words word by word. "What? What? Words?" Zhou Daocheng's face darkened slightly, leaned close to his ear, and said 2 words, "I loved you." Hearing these 2 words, Pan He deflated directly, and a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. But the next moment, he tried his best to grab Zhou Daocheng's hand, lowered his voice and said, "Her tattoo is the means of the secret talisman palace. Living people practice talismans, double snake ghosts sticking their heads out. You must hide from them, and..." Pan He almost said all the information he knew, just a few words, which contained a huge amount of information, allowing Zhou Daocheng to understand a lot about the situation of the red snake tattooed woman at once. Zhou Daocheng's face changed slightly, and he remembered everything in his heart. Of course, for him, the greatest role of this information is not to help the red snake tattooed woman solve the disadvantages of tattoos, but to facilitate targeting one day in the future. After Pan He finished speaking, Zhou Daocheng slowly stood up and ended his life in front of Pan He's wide-eyed gaze. Lin Ziyuan looked at Zhou Daocheng deeply and asked, "Did you get the information you wanted?" Chapter 236 Soul Restoration Hand. Absolutely. This guy died worthily. Zhou Daocheng's eyes were calm, and he replied calmly, "The magic weapon belongs to you, the body belongs to me, and the contents in the storage bag belong to each person." Lin Ziyuan's face darkened. "I killed the person. I also stepped in to help. That's what I used 5 rays of yin evil to kill, and asked you to take action," Lin Ziyuan said with a gloomy face. Zhou Daocheng said calmly, "I only said to lure him in, trap him, and then you kill him. As for how to distribute the harvest, I didn't say anything before." The corner of Lin Ziyuan's mouth twitched, but considering that he was still in the formation, he didn't want to push too much, so he finally agreed. Lin Ziyuan directly took away the bone flag. This was his biggest goal. As long as he could get it, he would not lose anything. Zhou Daocheng also took Pan He's body directly. As for the items in the storage bag, they were surprisingly few. There were only some clothes, magic weapons, talismans, and a small amount of monster materials, but there were quite a few spirit stones. In total, there are almost 20,000 spirit stones. For a casual cultivator, this was already a considerable amount of wealth, but for the foundation building period, it was actually relatively poor. The two of them directly divided it equally, and 10,000 spirit stones were also an unexpected gain. In addition, the two of them accidentally discovered a second-level spellbook deep in the storage bag. This made Zhou Daocheng quite curious. How could there be a second-level spell here? You must know that Pan He did not use any spells in the battle just now, otherwise he would not have been defeated so quickly. After a brief check, Zhou Daocheng discovered that this was indeed a second-level spell, but it was not about combat. The spell is called Soul Restoration Hand, and it has a very special effect. It can use the spiritual energy of the monk to restore the residual soul of the monster to a certain extent. Obviously, this set of spells is completely matched with the bone flag, which uses the bone flag to forcibly absorb the remaining souls of monsters. Or if the spirit has been damaged to some extent, you can also use this spell to recover as much as possible, so that the remnant soul of the monster and the bone flag will have stronger strength. It's a pity that although the remnant soul of the monster beast is indeed very strong, it is completely suppressed by the earth and yin roulette and directly weakens more than half of its strength, so it looks vulnerable. If faced with other strong players, Pan He might be able to gain an absolute advantage and win the final victory. The two of them each printed a copy of this magic book. After distributing the harvest, Lin Ziyuan gave 5 wisps of earth evil yin qi to Zhou Daocheng, and then left Wugu directly, and also determined the time to go to the ruins. 2 months later, we will meet in the east of Wugu and enter the Xuani insect ruins together. This cooperation was surprisingly smooth. He easily killed Pan He and successfully harvested the earth evil yin qi. At the same time, he also obtained a sum of spiritual stones and a set of second-level spells. Although the reviving soul hand needs to be used in conjunction with the bone flag to exert its greatest effect, it is actually equally useful for Zhou Daocheng. Because the essence is actually the soul of the monster. Sometimes, the spirit of a monster is damaged in battle, so it cannot be used to set up the spirit puppet array. However, if there's a spell like Soul Restoration Hand, the spirit can be repaired. Including in the market, there will also be some defective spirits. Because the use value is low, the price is relatively cheap. If you encounter it in the future, you can buy it directly and continue to use it after recovery. Overall, Zhou Daocheng was very satisfied with this harvest, but he was still a little worried about exploring the Dessous sect in 2 months. After all, after leaving Wugu, without the protection of the formation, he is likely to be in danger, so during this period, Zhou Daocheng must make some preparations in advance. On the one hand, you need to continue to improve your own strength and prepare for the next exploration. On the other hand, Wugu's strength must also be improved to prevent unexpected situations from occurring during his absence. In response, Zhou Daocheng found his elder brother Zhou Daocheng, and after explaining some things, he began to retreat alone. Time flies and the years go by. 2 months flew by. During this period, Zhou Daocheng refined a large number of first-order high-grade formations to enhance Wugu's strength. Almost all the captains of the guard team and hunting team have a first-level high-grade fusion formation, and their overall strength has been greatly improved. Moreover, due to the increase in the number of monsters during this period, a lot of extremely high-quality monster materials appeared in the city. Zhou Daocheng used his identity as the Lord of Fog Valley to acquire a large number of monster materials and provided them all to the Zhou family for refining various magical weapons. Among them, all the scaly monster materials that appeared were collected and used to make flowing cloud silver scale armor. This kind of silver armor covered with cloud patterns has become a characteristic of Wuyifang City, and it is also a symbol of strong strength. Whenever the captains of the guard team and hunting team appear wearing floating cloud silver scale armor, they can show their powerful strength and crush their opponents in a short time. Therefore, in the eyes of many forces and casual cultivators, this is a magical weapon that belongs exclusively to Wuyifang City and is a symbol of authority. Zhou Daocheng actually didn't think of this at the beginning, he just regarded it as an ordinary magic weapon. If there are other monster materials in the future, he will probably refine other types of magic weapons. However, people did not expect that the floating cloud silver scale armor became more and more famous and became the exclusive symbol of Wuyifang City. So Zhou Daocheng had no choice but to collect scales again and let Zhou Daocheng refine the exact same Liaoyan silver scale armor. Moreover, it is no longer limited to the Liaoyan silver scale armor of the first-grade top-grade. After all, there are not many first-grade top-grade snake scales in the entire market. It can even be said that they are very rare and not enough. Therefore, we can only settle for the second best and use some lower-quality materials. Coincidentally, these lower-quality magic tools can also be worn by some cultivators of the 8th and 7th levels of Qi training. Since the Liaoyan silver scale armor has become a symbol of the trend of Wugu, Zhou Daocheng also intends to promote this matter and make this magic tool a mark of Wugu market. The rise of any power does not rely solely on the strength of the top powerhouses. The improvement of the foundation building powerhouses is certainly important, but the improvement of the middle and low-level cultivators should not be ignored. The Liaoyan silver scale armor has greatly increased the foundation of the late-stage Qi refining cultivators, and made this magic weapon the symbol of Wugu, which also gathered people's hearts and enhanced prestige. Its effect is all round. Zhou Daocheng highly praised these things that are conducive to development. As 2 months passed, Zhou Daocheng gradually withdrew his thoughts and began to prepare for the exploration of the Xuanian sect ruins. Without anyone knowing, 2 strong men who had reached the foundation building stage had secretly left Wugu and went to the area where the Yan Qi exploded. Zhou Daocheng finally waited for the information of Lin Zion, the leader of the Desu sect, and officially went to the Xuanian sect ruins. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Xuanian Sect Treasures. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but feel excited, because the value contained in a relic was enough to bring earth-shaking changes to the small fog valley. At this time, the information of Xuanian sect began to emerge in his mind. This is an extremely ancient sect that has disappeared for a long time, but there are still some information left, showing the power of this sect. According to rumors, Xuanian sect can become a powerful Zaifu sect with 3 foundations. They are 100 Evils Bureau, Lianyan Gong, and White Bone Boat. The so-called 100 Evils Bureau refers to the former residence of Xuanian sect, which is a place of extremely yin with hundreds of evils. It is more than 100 times stronger than the Desu land of Desu sect. It not only has a continuous flow of yin energy, but also condenses evil energy in the yin energy, which is extremely rare. Moreover, 100 Evils Bureau is combined with the third-level top-grade formation, connecting the terrain, and its power is comparable to that of a giant and strongman, and it is well deserved to be the residence of the top sect. Unfortunately, with the destruction of the Xuanian sect, the 100 Evils Bureau was also destroyed, and now it no longer exists. And Lian Yingong also refers to the Xuanian sect's martial arts, which is the third-level upper-grade Najuan Lian Yingong, which was very famous at the time, and there are also supporting martial arts and magical powers, as well as several life-defining magic tools. If you practice to the extreme, you will be almost invincible at the same level. But for Zhou Daocheng, he has only heard of the name of the martial arts, and he is not clear about the details. As for the last bone boat, it is naturally the giant bone spirit boat, which has the power of the peak of the third-level late stage. The Xuanian sect is proficient in refining spirit boats. In fact, there is not only one bone spirit boat, but the power of other spirit boats is weaker. Only the bone spirit boat is the culmination of the whole, the strongest spirit boat in comprehensive strength, and therefore the most famous. Any of these things, as long as Zhou Daocheng gets them, the strength of the Zhou family and Wugu will be greatly improved. But how can it be easy to get these top treasures? There is a high probability that these top-notch skills and techniques have long been divided up by the forces of the past, and it is impossible for them to be passed down to the present. And there should not be such precious items in this small relic. However, even so, Zhou Daocheng is full of expectations, because the 100 Evils Bureau, Lian Yingong and White Bone Boat are the most precious items of Xuanian sect, but they are not the only good things. Any force with strong comprehensive strength will definitely not have obvious disadvantages, and most of the immortal cultivation skills should be possessed. After all, the refining of the spirit boat requires many aspects of immortal cultivation skills, so Xuanian sect must have many skills such as refining tools, talismans, elixirs, formations, etc., even including planting spiritual plants and raising spiritual beasts. It may not be a unique skill, but as long as there are some left, Zhou Daocheng will be satisfied. It is precisely because of the huge benefits that Zhou Daocheng will risk going to the place where the Yunzhi explodes to find possible opportunities. When Zhou Daocheng came to the east of the Foggy Valley, the leader of the Dazhu sect, Lin Ziowen, was already waiting here. There was no one else, only Lin Ziowen, holding a white bone banner in his hand, standing there calmly. Zhou Daocheng asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist Lin, are you the only one going this time?" Lin Ziowen nodded and said carefully, "The ruins of the Purple Mansion sect are extremely dangerous. The more people there are, the better. It doesn't matter whether I go alone or take others with me." Zhou Daocheng nodded thoughtfully. "There is only one foundation building expert, Lin Ziowen, in the Dazhu sect now. Except for him, it is difficult for others to ensure their own safety. Especially in this dangerous environment. If you are not careful, you may be trapped here. If you are strong enough, you may be able to hold on, but if you are an ordinary Qi training cultivator, it is likely that you will not be able to resist even the outermost layer of Yin Qi. Even in Lin Ziowen's view, it is admirable that the Lord of the Fog Valley has the courage to come here. Lin Ziowen glanced at Zhou Daocheng and asked, "You are going alone? Where are the foundation building cultivators in your Mist Valley?" Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, "Senior Snake Princess is not here, so I am the only one." Lin Ziowen just smiled at this answer and did not take it seriously. He knew clearly that in addition to flame-charming Snake Princess, there should be another foundation-building cultivator in Mist Valley, and how could the master of Mist Valley act alone in such a dangerous operation? There must be others accompanying him. It's just that where the person is hiding is still unknown. Then, let's set off, so that we can go there as soon as possible and see what the situation is at the center of the Yunzhi. Lin Ziowen didn't say much, with a cautious look in his eyes, looking into the depths of the eastern forest. Even he, a third-level foundation-building cultivator, has to be careful in the current environment, and the dangers are multifaceted. The East Great Wilderness Vein itself is extremely dangerous. This is not a fairy mountain cave, but a real wilderness, full of ferocious monsters, various unknown strange spiritual plants, and dangerous environments. If they encounter 1 or 2 second-level monsters, the two may be able to barely deal with them, but if there are too many monsters, even they will be unable to move forward. But this is relatively easy to solve. After all, whether it is Zhou Daocheng's skills or Lin Ziyuan's dying compass, they can be used to guide the direction and avoid monsters as much as possible. The other danger lies in the ruins themselves. Obviously, this ruins is also in a special terrain, and it is dominated by yin energy. Coupled with some special formations, its power is absolutely extraordinary. Maybe it's not as good as the 100 Evils Bureau, but it's definitely not weaker than the earthly evil sect's earthly evil yin qi. Otherwise, it would not be just an explosion of yin qi that scared so many second-order monsters and fled. They must have felt that their lives were threatened. Therefore, when the two of them approached, they were extremely careful and alert to all possible dangers around them. As the two of them went deeper and gradually approached the area where yin qi broke out, the surrounding environment changed greatly. In the air, there were a large number of wisps of gray spiritual energy floating around, entwining around the surrounding trees. There was a hint of malaise, and the vitality seemed to be affected, and it no longer looked so vigorous. Moreover, the temperature here has also dropped significantly. Just as it is approaching evening, frost begins to form in the air, making people feel like they are shivering all over. Zhou Daocheng knew that this was not just the low temperature, but more importantly the yin energy, which caused the surrounding environment to be in a state of extremely heavy yin energy for a long time. While the body feels extremely cold, even the replenishment of spiritual energy is greatly affected. Of course, this impact is relatively small for Lin Ziyuan. After all, the skills he practices are also filled with evil spirits, and they are not very repellent to such an environment. Chapter 238 No Formation. But for Zhou Daocheng, the problem is more serious, because he practices earth-based exercises. In today's environment, the air is full of evil spirits, so it is difficult to restore spiritual energy. If all the spiritual energy is consumed here, it can only be restored through elixirs. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but frown. It was only on the outside now, but the environment was already so bad. If it went to the depths, it would be even more dangerous. But now that he is here, he has no intention of leaving just like that. Besides, he has brought a lot of spiritual honey, spiritual liquid, and spiritual wine, which can be used to replenish spiritual power, which should be barely enough. When the two of them walked about 10 kilometers, they had completely entered the Great Eastern Wilderness. The trees here cover the sky and the sun, and there are almost no roads. Looking up, it is as gloomy as a ghost land, and there is very little light. The two could only use the luminous stone to continue exploring forward, and the yin qi was becoming more and more intense, and the place where the yin qi broke out was very close. Zhou Daocheng looked at it. He had explored this place before. If there were no accidents, he would probably be able to reach the core area of yin qi in another 2 or 3 hours. This is indeed the case. The closer the two people get to the core area of yin qi, the faster they move, because all the monsters nearby have fled to the periphery, and even most of the plants are almost dead. There is almost no other danger except the yin qi itself. Under the leadership of Lin Ziyuan, the two arrived at the area where the yin qi broke out that night. Seeing the deepest yin qi, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. It had almost condensed into substance. All the surrounding trees were dead, and a large number of beast bones were scattered around. From time to time, there is a dark wind blowing around, accompanied by heavy yin energy, which is like a heavy yin sand magic weapon. It is extremely powerful. If the qi refining monk is blown, there is a high probability that he will be seriously injured. Even foundation building monks can hardly resist it easily, and it is extremely dangerous. Lin Ziyuan only dared to stand on the edge, looking ahead warily, as if he had no idea what to do. Perhaps, with his cultivation of the 3rd level of foundation building, coupled with his own understanding of yin qi, he should be able to barely withstand the yin qi environment in front of him. But once he goes deep into the depths, he is afraid that even he will die in it. The Lord of Fog Valley is here. Can you see the formation method in it? Lin Ziyuan asked in a deep voice. Zhou Daocheng did not answer, but took a step forward and carefully observed the flow of yin qi in front of him. trying to find the direction of the formation lines in it. But after a full quarter of an hour, even though he widened his eyes and tried his best to search for traces of the formation, he still could not see any sign of the formation. In other words, it does use some formation methods, but it is not a complete set of formations. It seems to be a set of semi-finished formations. Moreover, the already vague formation has been completely eroded by Yunzhi over the endless years, leaving not many formation lines left. Regarding this situation, Zhou Daocheng suddenly asked a question. Fellow Taoist Lin, when the Xuanian sect fled here, were there any formation masters who followed them? Lin Ziyuan was stunned for a moment, and then, as if he was looking at a fool, he said angrily, "I wasn't born at that time, how could I know? Besides, not to mention me, even the Zaifu sect who was chasing Xuanian sect in the first place would probably. Don't you know who is in this fleeing team?" Zhou Daocheng touched his nose and found that it was indeed the case. If anyone knew the details of the escaped Xuanian sect disciples, they would have most likely been destroyed thousands of years ago and would not have been spread to this day. However, Zhou Daocheng's question still caught Lin Ziyuan's attention and asked, "Why do you ask this? Isn't this a formation?" Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, "There are traces of the formation, but very few, and most of them have been eroded by Yunzhi. At least in my opinion, the person who arranged this formation should not be a formation master." "The person who arranged the formation was not the formation master? Are you kidding me?" Lin Ziyuan frowned. Zhou Daocheng shook his head. "You don't have to be a formation master to arrange formations. Some monks who are strong enough, or talisman masters, will be more or less exposed to some formations and enchantment spells. Although their methods it's not pure, but it can also create some simple formations. Based on my current observations, this should be a strong person who used simple formation thinking to arrange a set of inferior formations. Not only was it unable to completely bind the Yunzhi here, it has even been destroyed by the Yunzhi." When Lin Ziyuan heard this, he was a little confused. This was indeed not his area of expertise, otherwise he would not have asked Zhou Daocheng for help. However, this situation is actually very common in the world of cultivating immortals. Anyone who studies the art of cultivating immortals should know this common sense. Even though the techniques of cultivating immortals are numerous and different, they are all more or less related to each other. For example, although Zhou Daocheng is an array master, he will use the knowledge of weapon refining in the process of refining the array disc. If one day he becomes a top formation mage, then his weapon refining level will not be too bad. Of course, the magic weapons he can refine are mostly based on formation discs, and he is not a true weapon refiner. The formation in front of him seemed to be a similar situation to Zhou Daocheng. Perhaps it was a powerful person who was proficient in talismans, or enchantment-type spells, or someone who understood the art of finding pulses, and used his simple knowledge of formations to set up the formation. But at this moment, Zhou Daocheng's eyes lit up. "The art of finding pulse!" This is a special technique that can deduce the location of spiritual veins based on the terrain. The most important ability is to make great use of the terrain. Before, Zhou Daocheng focused all his attention on the formation, so he didn't pay attention to the terrain. But now that he suddenly thought about it, he realized that the environment and terrain in front of him seemed rather special. Or strictly speaking, why Xuanian sect looked for this place as its base back then must have been because of the unique Yunzhi environment here. Inspired by this, Zhou Daocheng finally had some new ideas, and once again turned his attention to the Yunzhi in the south. He no longer looked at the formation, but observed from the terrain. At this time, he finally discovered some clues. Zhou Daocheng had a thoughtful look on his face and murmured to himself, "It turns out that the formation is only secondary and is used to change the terrain here, and the unique geographical environment here is the key point." "What do you mean?" Lin Ziyuan asked. Zhou Daocheng thought for a while and said calmly, "You may not need formation methods to enter it." Lin Ziyuan raised his eyebrows. "No formation? The environment here is special, and there is such a strong Yunzhi. This is not due to the formation, but the environment here is so special. Even if we destroy the formation, the Yunzhi here will not dissipate." Chapter 239, Should I come in or not? After Zhou Daocheng said this, Lin Ziyuan immediately understood. Originally, he wanted to destroy the formation to reduce the danger here, but now it seems that this approach does not seem to work. Lin Ziyuan stroked his beard and thought, in this case, then we can only force our way in. Zhou Daocheng nodded. Now the two of them are no longer facing a man-made formation, but an extremely special natural place where yin gathers. There is no trick, so they can only force their way in with the terrifying yin energy. For a moment, the faces of both of them were a little ugly. Lin Ziyuan's face was gloomy, looking at the yin energy that was constantly boiling and rolling in front of him. He was hesitant in his heart. The reason why he did not enter alone, but wanted to find the formation master of the Lord of Fog Valley, was not because the situation here was too dangerous. As a result, now, he still has to force his way in. Zhou Daocheng was also in a low mood. If there was a formation, he might be able to control it and become a great help to himself. As a result, even the foundation building masters are wary of such a dangerous place where yin gathers, not to mention him, a qi refining cultivator. If he enters rashly, there may be a life and death crisis. If he is asked to give up this relic, he is really reluctant. If before, he only guessed that there were relics of the Xuanian sect here, but when he saw this place where yin gathers with his own eyes, Zhou Daocheng was almost certain that this place was definitely not ordinary. At least, being able to discover this terrain and use it as the existence of the sect's residents, the strength is definitely not ordinary. After weighing it in his mind, Zhou Daocheng took the initiative to ask, "Friend Lin, now that you are here, do you have any good ideas? If I have a good idea, would you come?" Lin Ziyuan was also quite impatient, frowning and said, "The concentration of yin qi here is too high. If I force my way in, I am not absolutely sure of yin qi here has reached the peak of the second grade upper grade, and even if you go to the core area, it is likely to reach the third grade. This is indeed too difficult for the two of them." However, after thinking for a moment, Zhou Daocheng said, "There should still be a chance. If it was before the yin qi erupted, this place would be a perfect place for yin qi to gather. It would be really difficult for us to enter, but now it's not necessarily the case." Lin Ziyuan's eyes lit up, and he said in surprise, "Yes, since there is yin qi spreading out, there must be a loophole. We can enter through the loophole. If we want to find the weak point of yin qi, we may be able to enter it." Zhou Daocheng's eyes showed a thoughtful look, and he continued to add, "And with such a strong yin qi, even the strong men of Xuanian sect can't stay in this environment for a long time, so there is a high probability that the core of the yin qi gathering place is a safe place." The two looked at each other, and there was a hint of desire in their eyes. Although it was just a guess, it was indeed reasonable and well-founded, and it was worth a try for the two of them. After all, the value of the treasures that may exist in it is too great, not to mention a small foundation building force like them. Even a powerful foundation building force with more than a dozen foundation building masters would certainly not be able to resist such a great temptation. Once successful, the improvement he brought would be huge. Let alone anything else. After all, occupying this piece of yin gathering place, the value represented is extraordinary. Zhou Daocheng looked deep and asked, "Fellow Taoist Lin, are you going in?" Lin Ziyuan looked at Zhou Daocheng deeply, and couldn't help but sigh at the courage of this boy. "You dare to go in with your qi refining stage cultivation, why shouldn't I dare? But if you really want to go in, you should also call out the foundation building strong man of your Fog Valley, right?" As he said, Lin Ziyuan looked at an area with an inexplicable smile on his face. Zhou Daocheng didn't care, just smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Zhu, fellow Taoist Z, come out." 3 seconds later, two figures walked out from the back. They were Zhu Daoist and Zhao who arrived in advance. The two bowed their hands, greeted Lin Ziyuan, and then stood quietly behind Zhou Daocheng, in a state of complete obedience. This scene immediately made Lin Ziyuan's pupils shrink, and a look of understanding emerged, and his heart was greatly shocked. Before, when he found out that the Lord of Fog Valley could control the market with only the 9th level of qi refining, and there were also foundation building cultivators following him, he was already shocked enough. But now, seeing that there were actually 2 foundation building masters, He was even more shocked, and it seemed that this was not a cooperative relationship, but a completely submissive attitude. Such means made him feel incredible. At least in his eyes, there are only two situations to make two foundation-building masters willingly submit to a chi-refining cultivator. One is that the status of the chi-refining cultivator is extremely high and the background is extremely great. The other is that the ability and personal charm are extremely strong, which makes the stronger cultivator sincerely convinced. The two sides have been opponents for quite a long time. Lin Ziyuan has also explored the identity of the Lord of Fog Valley, but has not found out his identity. And the two masters in front of him entered Fog Valley after the establishment of Fog Valley Market. From this, it can be seen that it is likely that the Lord of Fog Valley subdued them with his own ability and made them willing to work under him. This kind of ability is truly terrifying and frightening. Anyone who exists like this must have a unique ability to attract people. Zhou Daocheng didn't know that at this time, in Lin Ziyuan's eyes, his status had risen rapidly, and he became a person with great means and strong personality charm. But he didn't care about these speculations. Also helped him consolidate his position as the Lord of the Mist Valley. Fellow Taoist Lin, now we have 3 foundation-building masters. I wonder if the possibility of entering it has increased. Zhou Daocheng's voice pulled Lin Ziyuan back from his thoughts. Lin Ziyuan nodded and said, maybe we can give it a try. With our cooperation, we should be able to barely find a place with weak Yunqi in this Yin gathering place. Zhou Daocheng also agreed, fellow Taoist Lin's Earth Yin compass should be of great use here, and I also know a little about the terrain, so I can try to find the entrance. Both parties have good means, and the Earth Yin compass is of high quality. Although it is subject to certain restrictions here, it can definitely play a role. And Zhou Daocheng is a formation master. Although he doesn't know much about the terrain, he definitely knows more than ordinary cultivators. There is also a very important point. Although the formation here is not very strong or very important, it can be used to infer the general situation inside through the lines of the formation and the clues in it. Zhou Daocheng already had a rough idea of the first step of the action. Fellow Taoist Lin, let's go to the southwest. What's special there? Zhou Daocheng said calmly. The formation pattern is the most worn, which should be the main place where the yin qi leaks. Then, let's go and take a look. Chapter 240, Expanding the Gap. Bypassing the area with the most concentrated yin qi, we came to the southwest and found that the yin qi leaked here was indeed the most, almost overwhelming and pouring out. Obviously, when the strong men of Xuanian sect came here, they forcibly locked this terrain to prevent the yin qi from leaking out. But after a long time, a huge amount of yin qi has condensed inside, causing the terrain to break directly, allowing endless yin qi to flow out. How could it be simple to accumulate yin qi for thousands of years? The eldest brother Zhu Daobai looked at the surging yin qi and couldn't help frowning and said, what a terrifying yin qi, are we really going to go in? I'm afraid it will be very dangerous. Lin Ziyuan's face was ugly, and he said gloomily, before, in other directions, the leaked yin qi was relatively small, but now from this leak, the situation is worse than expected. Zhou Daocheng was also in shock. Fortunately, he didn't force his way in from other locations, otherwise he would be dead. Even the yin qi leaking out of the front of us, after a large amount of yin qi has flowed out, still makes people afraid to approach, which is enough to show how dense the yin qi inside is. However, facing the current situation, it is not completely impossible. Zhou Daocheng thought for a moment and suggested, maybe we have to wait for a while, wait for the yin qi to dissipate more, and then we can enter it. Lin Ziyuan frowned. Given our identities, I'm afraid we can't wait too long. Several people are important figures in their respective forces. It's okay to leave for 10 days or half a month. Once they leave for a long time, some accidents are inevitable. Zhou Daocheng and the other two are like this. Someone needs to guard the Fog Valley. Once a second evil monster breaks in, I'm afraid the situation will be very troublesome. Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, it shouldn't be too long. I will try to expand the gap and speed up the leakage of yin qi. It won't be too late to enter when the concentration drops to a level we can bear. Okay, then do as you said. Zhou Daocheng roughly checked the surrounding situation and found that the terrain here is very simple. The area surrounded by the mountains is a completely locked yin gathering place. However, there was a mountain that had been eroded by the yin qi for a long time, and it was seriously corroded. It collapsed directly, and a large gap appeared. Zhou Daocheng directly sacrificed the array plate, and a large number of thorny vines grew in the golden spear 100 vine array, which whipped the mountain at the break frantically, further increasing the size of the gap. The surrounding mountains had become extremely fragile under the erosion of the years, and now they were directly and rapidly cracked under the influence of external forces. In a few breaths, a large area of mountains fell down, and the gap, which was only a dozen feet, expanded more than twice in an instant. The yin qi that suddenly surged out was like an overwhelming dark cloud, swirling and swirling, tearing the gap even bigger. The rich yin qi had turned black, as if night had fallen. Zhou Daocheng saw this scene and hurriedly stepped back to avoid being accidentally injured by the yin qi. After this toss, the leakage speed of the yin qi increased by more than 5 times, and it flowed in all directions in an instant. It can be clearly seen that in the nearby area, all the trees have withered, leaving only bare stones, which are also stained with a trace of grand decaying yin qi. If it continues at the current speed, it will take about 6 or 7 days for the yin qi concentration here to drop to about the middle stage of foundation building, which can barely enter it. During the next period of time, the 4 people stayed in a safe area nearby temporarily. Zhou Daocheng took out his exclusive Earth Spirit house, which was a first-class quality, a single-family attic, equipped with a variety of complete facilities and a large number of daily necessities. Moreover, other first-class quality formations were arranged in it, such as the thick Earth Spirit formation, which can exclude yin qi and help restore spiritual energy. The same is true for Zhou Daobai and Zhao. The cave-type formations they have also specially refined by Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daobai's formation is specially equipped with a gold formation to replenish mana. Among Zhao's formations, there is also a returning spirit formation, which can provide a safe area even in an area with dense yin qi. Lin Ziowen's situation is not so good. He also bought a cave-type formation, but the quality is only first-grade medium. It's not that he can't afford a first-grade upper-grade formation, but all the formations in the entire Wu Yifang city are made by Zhou Daocheng alone, so the number is relatively small. Especially those with higher quality rarely appear on the market, and most of the time, the first-grade lower-grade multi-person caves sell the best, so more will be made. However, after a while, when Zhou Daowen and Lin Changshu officially become formation masters, they can share some of the pressure and help refine formation plates for sale. Seeing Zhou Daocheng's formation, Lin Ziowen was also quite envious. This kind of formation that can restore mana anytime and anywhere in the wild is indeed extraordinary in value. And from the current situation, even with such dense yin qi, this formation can form an area that is not affected by the outside world, which is really amazing. Not long after, Lin Ziowen took the initiative to find Zhou Daocheng. Ahem, Lord of Fog Valley, you and I are allies who work together. Can you sell me a few sets of your first-grade top-grade formations that can stably provide spiritual energy? Zhou Daocheng was stunned for a moment. The formations were not valuable items. However, he did not prepare any extra cave-type formations for this outing. He couldn't just refine them on the spot, right? Under no choice, Lin Ziowen and Zhao had to temporarily live in the same cave. It just so happened that both of them were mainly water-based and could share the same room. As for the 2 people not wanting to live in the same room, that was naturally no problem. Zhou Daocheng only needed to simply change the formation to create 2 new houses in the formation. However, the only shortcoming was the lack of spiritual energy. On the one hand, the environment here was too dense with yin energy, so the spiritual energy generated in the formation was still much less. Secondly, it was naturally not enough for 2 foundation building cultivators to absorb the spiritual energy in the first-level upper-grade formation at the same time. But fortunately, both parties were just replenishing their mana and taking daily rest, not really practicing in it, so it was barely enough. In the next 7 days, in addition to daily practice and rest, The four people kept an eye on the situation of yin energy. Unexpectedly, the amount of yin energy was much larger than expected. After 10 days, it was still close to the peak of the second level middle grade. Even Lin Ziyuan was very dangerous to enter. During this period, Zhao also proposed whether to continue to expand the leak, but Zhou Daocheng and Lin Ziyuan thought for a moment and refused. There is a very important reason, that is, these yin qi are actually a very precious resource. Now is everyone still outside the yin gathering land, sneering at this yin qi, but once they enter the depths and truly master this yin gathering land, there will be countless treasures. There is even a high probability that this gap will be filled in the future. So now it is better to wait a few more days than to expand the whole. Chapter 241 Entering the Land of Gathering Yin. After waiting for another 7 days, the concentration of yin qi continued to decrease, and finally reached a level that could barely be entered. Although it was still extremely dangerous, there were 3 foundation building masters after all. As long as they were careful, they could still ensure safety. After checking the situation, they confirmed that their bodies could withstand it, so they did not stay for too long, but began to try to enter. Layers of yin qi blocked the way, almost condensing into a viscose liquid in the air, surrounding the body, and even making it difficult to move, which was really frightening. Lin Ziyuan took the lead and used his own powerful spiritual energy to form a circle of protective shield around his body to exclude the yin qi, and then walked into it with great caution. The rich spiritual energy continued to impact the protective shield, but as long as the spiritual energy was continuously output, it could still be barely maintained. Seeing this situation, Zhou Daocheng and Zhao also stepped forward to try it out, and found that they could indeed withstand it. The only trouble was Zhou Daocheng. The strength of the eldest brother Zhou Daocheng and Zhao could barely protect themselves, and it was difficult to protect him separately. Zhou Daocheng frowned and said, "How about I and Daozi go in, and you stay outside?" Zhou Daocheng frowned slightly, but did not speak. Instead, he used his powerful spiritual energy to form a protective shield around himself. Although his realm has not yet broken through to the foundation building stage, the cultivation method he practiced is after all a 3rd level upper grade 1, and it is the defense-based Wutakunai Ugong. It is a method that sacrifices a lot of attack means and thus has extremely powerful defensive capabilities. Therefore, with his strength at the peak of the 9th level of Qi refining, the power of the protective shield condensed is not weaker than that of a strong man in the early stage of foundation building. Even to a certain extent, in terms of durability and toughness, it seems to be even stronger. So, as the Kakulite shield appeared, Zhou Daocheng was tightly protected in it, and the yin qi could not break through it at all. This scene made the 3 foundation building masters present couldn't help but open their eyes wide. It was because they had personally felt the power of yin qi that they understood how difficult it was to resist. Unexpectedly, a cultivator who was only in the qi refining stage could resist this yin qi just like them. What does it mean? At least in Lin Ziyuan's eyes, the strength of the Lord of the Mist Valley in front of him was almost not weaker than that of an ordinary cultivator of the 1st level of foundation building. It even seemed that Zhou Daocheng was walking in the yin qi much more easily than Zhao. The eldest brother Zhou Daocheng looked at his younger brother with some concern and asked, "Can you hold on for a long time? Our exploration time this time should not be short." Zhou Daocheng just replied calmly, "Not as strong as I thought. I should be able to bear it." As soon as these words came out, the corners of the other people's mouths twitched. "Not as strong as imagined? What is this?" Hearing Zhou Daocheng's confidence, Zhou Daocheng didn't say anything more. The 4 of them no longer hesitated, and all of them began to move towards the entrance with vigilance and excitement. The yin qi that continued to flow outward, like a tide, with a strong force, constantly pushed everyone back. An ordinary yin qi, the spiritual energy consumed is already enough. Now the yin qi surging like a huge wave makes it more difficult to move forward. Faced with this situation, Zhou Daocheng, Zhou Daocheng, and Zhao are very tactful and hide behind Lin Ziyuan very naturally, which can greatly reduce the pressure. In response, Lin Ziyuan just pulled the corner of his mouth, cursed a few words and said no more. The situation everyone is facing now is not suitable for quarreling, and as the strongest existence, it doesn't matter if he bears more pressure. After all, he still needs Zhou Daocheng to lead the way. After walking nearly 200 meters, the four people finally passed the outermost entrance and entered the Yunzhi inside. As soon as they entered, they could clearly find that the Yunzhi inside was more dense than expected, almost completely in the black fog, and the protective shield was continuously attacked and eroded. Zhou Daocheng and Zhao hurriedly looked at Zhou Daocheng, worried that he could not bear the environment here, but they were really overthinking. If it was just to protect himself, Zhou Daocheng would have more than enough, and his spiritual energy was extremely large, so he didn't worry about consumption. And in his pocket, he also had a lot of spiritual honey and spiritual liquid. As long as no one attacked him at this time, there shouldn't be any problems. And the next road was relatively easy. Zhou Daocheng roughly judged the direction of the Yunzhi based on the terrain, and thus found a route to go deep inside. Lin Ziwen relied on the Earth Yin compass to find some directions with weaker Yunzhi, or avoid some extremely strong Yunzhi turbulence, making it safer for everyone to walk. Fortunately, all the dangers here come only from Yunzhi. As long as you can resist it, you can almost have a smooth journey. It took about a day to reach the area with the most concentrated Yunzhi, and even reached the peak of the second level upper grade. Logically speaking, it would be difficult to resist with the strength of everyone, and it is even very likely to be swallowed by the Yunzhi and die here completely. Zhou Daocheng saw from the terrain that the area with the most concentrated Yunzhi should be only 100 meters. Later, Lin Ziwen used the Earth Yin compass to measure and confirmed this statement again. It was indeed only 100 meters. In this way, everyone only needs to move forwards 100 meters in such a concentrated Yunzhi, which is relatively much easier. But even so, the degree of danger is still not low. Lin Ziwen's eyes were deep and he said in a deep voice, "With the help of the Earth's wheel and the bone flag, I should be able to barely carry it through, but you three may have to find a way on your own." Zhou Daocheng glanced at him and said nothing more. Now that he is approaching his destination, Zhou Daocheng's value to Lin Ziwen is getting smaller and smaller. The cooperative relationship between the two parties will gradually transform into a competitive relationship. Is it really just possible to get through it alone? It's not important. It just means that Lin Ziwen doesn't want to help Zhou Daocheng get through. Zhou Daocheng felt a little wary, and his position also changed a lot from before. He tried to stay as far away from Lin Ziwen as possible, forming a triangular position with his eldest brother Zhou Daocheng and Zhao to ensure safety as much as possible. Protected by two strong foundation builders, Lin Ziwen would most likely not dare to take action easily. The problem now is how to get through this most dangerous and sinister place. Zhao whispered, "With our individual strength alone, it should be difficult to get through. If we go together and form three protective shields, it might be possible to get through." After thinking about this proposal, Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, "Three people share a protective shield. The protective shield area is larger, and the area eroded by Yunzhi is also larger. I'm afraid the final consumption may not be less." Chapter 242. There is already a solution. "Can we use the formation to isolate the Yunzhi?" suggested the eldest brother Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daocheng said without a smile, "The Yunzhi in the periphery can barely hold up, but the quality of the Yunzhi here has reached the second grade upper grade, and is even close to the third grade. If the formation enters it, it will be eroded in a few breaths." As soon as the voice fell, the expressions of the three people also became a little gloomy. Seeing this situation, Lin Ziwen smiled and said lightly, "The three of you can discuss it slowly. I will go in first. See you later." Then he turned around and went directly into the Yunzhi, and his powerful spiritual energy formed a protective shield as the innermost protection. Then on the periphery, the Earth Yin wheel condensed a large amount of Yunzhi. Although it was not as good as the peak of the second grade upper grade Yunzhi around, it was also very powerful and could offset some of the erosion. Finally, there was the white bone banner, and a large number of monster souls surrounded it to guard it as the outermost protection. 3 layers of protection blocked Lin Ziwen like a rock, easily resisting the peak of the second level upper grade Yunzhi. But this method also has a great disadvantage, that is, The consumption of spiritual energy is extremely huge. Controlling 2 second-level magic tools at the same time requires a lot of spiritual energy, plus its own protective layer. I am afraid that this distance of only 100 is enough to consume all the spiritual energy. There is a high probability that you need to take pills to restore your spiritual energy in the middle. When Lin Ziwen took the first step in, he was oppressed by the strong yin qi, and he couldn't help but groan, and even his straight spine couldn't help but bend a little. It can be seen how great the pressure is. Maybe it's true as he said, even if he went alone, it would be very difficult, let alone taking others. But he blocked it after all, and he should be able to enter the ruins smoothly. After a few breaths, Lin Ziwen's figure completely disappeared in front of him, and only Zhou Daocheng, Zhou Daocheng, and Zhao were left. The three of them were relatively relaxed and no longer had to be wary of Lin Ziwen's existence. "Senior, can we only stay here and look at the ruins but not enter?" Zhao said indignantly. Everyone spent so much time and energy, and finally entered the place where the yin qi exploded. They were about to obtain a large number of treasures, but in the end they were stopped outside the door. This kind of thing, no matter who it happened to, would definitely be unwilling. But relatively speaking, Zhou Daocheng was calmer. He looked at Zhou Daocheng and asked, "Lord of the Fog Valley, you should have a way to enter, right?" Zhou Daocheng was stunned and smiled. "Why do you say that?" Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, "In the situation just now, if there was really no way to enter, you should force Lin Ziwen to take us in. If he didn't take us, then no one should go in. This is the most appropriate way to deal with it." Hearing this, Zhao also showed a look of sudden enlightenment, and looked at Zhou Daocheng with some surprise. Zhou Daocheng did not refute it. This elder brother knew him very well, so he stopped hiding it and said calmly, "The closer we get to the destination, the more unstable our relationship with Lin Ziwen becomes. It's not suitable for us to stay with him. It might be better to go separately." There is another very important point. We need to consume him a little and not let him reach the destination too easily. According to my estimation, when he passes through the yin qi, his spiritual energy will be almost consumed, and he will probably not be able to continue to attack us. Hearing what Zhou Daocheng said, Zhou Daocheng and Zhao showed thoughtful expressions. They can more or less think of these problems, but in the current situation, it is already difficult for them to withstand the yin qi, so they have no spare energy to consider other problems. Then, according to the senior's idea, is there an easier way to get through this yin qi? Zhao asked curiously. Zhou Daocheng showed a disdainful smile and said calmly, "From the beginning, our way of withstanding the yin qi was stupid." As he said, Zhou Daocheng took out 2 sets of formations. One set is the quicksand formation and the other is the golden spear 100 vine formation. Then, in the surprised eyes of the other two, Zhou Daocheng directly used the quicksand formation to transform the stones and soil on the ground into quicksand, thus forming a deep pit on the ground. Afterwards, the golden spear 100 vine formation went deep into the ground, using countless thick vines to dig a passage underground. It only took a few breaths to form a passage underground, and the 2 formations cooperated with each other. The quicksand formation softened the soil, and the golden spear 100 vine formation dug a passage, spreading all the way to the inside. Because it was underground, there was no erosion of yin qi at all, which was extremely safe and very fast. In fact, in order to prevent meeting Lin Ziwen on the way, Zhou Daocheng deliberately took a detour and entered the yin gathering place from another direction. When they got out of the ground, it took less than 10 minutes, and it didn't consume too much spiritual energy. This unique method made Zhou Daocheng and Zhao stunned. Why did they spend so much spiritual energy and force themselves to walk out of the yin qi before? This simple method was more than 10 times more convenient in the past. But on second thought, most people probably wouldn't think of this method. Because under normal circumstances, the soil under the yin qi is relatively hard, and it is very difficult to dig, and it is even more difficult to determine the direction of digging. Therefore, walking underground is a very dangerous choice. It's just that these problems can be easily solved for Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daocheng has thought of this method from the beginning, but after all, he is acting with Lin Ziwen, so he still needs to keep a hand. If the cooperation between the two parties breaks down and Lin Ziyuan takes action by force, he can still have a way to escape, and even take advantage of this convenience to gain an absolute advantage. Zhou Daocheng patted the dust in his hands and looked at the core of the yin-gathering land with a hint of joy in his eyes. The environment here is completely different from the outside. There is not a trace of yin qi, and even a lot of spiritual plants and trees grow. The environment is extremely beautiful, and not far away, Zhou Daocheng has seen some buildings, which should be ruins. Just looking out from here, the surrounding sky is still gloomy, and it should still be completely shrouded by yin qi, which is extremely depressing and low. But such an environment also reveals safety. Whether it is a monster or a cultivator, it is almost difficult to get here through these layers of yin qi. Moreover, if the yin qi had not been leaked before, this location was extremely hidden, and the safety was greatly improved. Even if a purple mansion expert came, it was highly likely that he would not be able to easily pass through the yin qi. Chapter 243. You can't get in either? As for Zhou Daocheng and Lin Ziyuan, they just took advantage and accidentally entered the ruins because they were close. It was also an unexpected opportunity, but this opportunity is not easy for the two of them. Zhou Daocheng originally planned to sneak into the ruins secretly and collect a large amount of treasures and resources before Lin Ziyuan could react. As soon as he got closer, Zhou Daocheng was dumbfounded, because the ruins inside were actually covered by a set of formations, and their quality was as high as the second-level top grade. What's even more troublesome is that this formation is very different from the natural maze. This is a defensive formation specially arranged by the formation master. With Zhou Daocheng's level, it is impossible to crack it from the outside, let alone control it. Zhou Daocheng's mouth twitched. He didn't expect the Xuanian sect actually had an array master. He really didn't expect it. As for breaking through by force, of course, there is no need to think about it. Zhou Daocheng knew that this formation was called the Vajra 100 Evils formation, and its defensive capabilities were extremely terrifying. Under the control of the formation master, it could barely resist the Xifu monks. Even if no one is controlling it now, it is definitely not something that a few second-level low-grade monks can break through. Zhou Daocheng touched his nose and felt helpless for a moment. It seemed that his idea would not work. The eldest brother Zhou Daobai looked around and found that there was indeed no way to enter. He spread his hands and asked, "What should we do now?" Zhou Daocheng thought for a moment, touched his chin, and said helplessly, "What else can we do?" "Naturally, we should go to fellow Taoist Lin. We are the best partners." Zhou Daobai. Zhao. It's true that lovers finally get married when they are co-authored. After going round and round, they finally get back together. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng and the others are not the only ones messing up in the wind. Lin Ziyuan, who had passed through the yin qi alone, was also standing in front of the formation with a gloomy expression on his face. Holding the earth roulette in one hand and the bone flag in the other, he stared at the formation, looking like he had no idea how to start, because he suddenly discovered that the Lord of Fog Valley who had been abandoned by him seemed to be useful, although he owns the bone flag and can use this magical weapon to enter the formation, but he doesn't know how to use it. After wandering around for a long time, he didn't even understand the front and back of the formation, let alone where the entrance to the ruins was. Just as he was hesitating whether to return to the yin qi and take over the Lord of Fog Valley, he heard a slight cough from beside him. I saw the Lord of Fog Valley wearing a purple robe and mask, and two other strong foundation builders, standing aside intact. Ahem, long time no see, Taoist friend Lin. After all the hard work, we finally passed through the yin qi, and we didn't expect to see you here again, Taoist Lin. Zhou Daocheng greeted warmly. However, after seeing the three people, Lin Ziyuan's face didn't look good. After all the hard work, finally passed through the yin qi? Lin Ziyuan looked at the three people in front of him. Their clothes were neat and clean, and their breathing was deep and calm. How could they look like they had gone through all the hard work? Looking at himself again, all his spiritual energy was almost exhausted. His clothes were also corroded by the yin energy and had some traces, and his face was even more tired and sweating profusely. looking quite embarrassed. Comparing the two, how could Lin Ziwen still not understand what happened? The other party obviously has a better way, which can easily pass through Yunzhi, but they just don't want to act with him. He has his own plans in mind, and why don't these three strong men from Wugu Valley in front of him not have them? And it seems that their methods are no weaker than their own, and are even stronger in some aspects. This made Lin Ziwen even more vigilant. However, Lin Ziwen only thought about it briefly and discovered his doubts. Since the other party has already acted separately from me, why does he still take the initiative to show up now? This is obviously illogical. But when his eyes caught a glimpse of the formation, he immediately understood it, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He couldn't enter the formation and came back to find himself? Lin Ziwen took a deep look and said meaningfully, "Lord of Fog Valley, your methods are really not weak. But if you want to enter the ruins, it seems that we still need to cooperate with each other. You don't need to be polite, fellow Taoist Lin. You and I are partners. We should try our best to help each other and be honest with each other." Zhou Daocheng said grandly. Through the mask, you can see the justice on his face. Lin Ziwen just couldn't help but twitching at the corner of his mouth, secretly thinking hypocrisy. If you couldn't get into the formation, where would there be any help for each other? The ruins must have been evacuated long ago, but the current situation does require cooperation from both parties. Lin Ziwen also ignored Zhou Daocheng's just words and said with a squinted smile, "What fellow Taoist said is absolutely true. We are all open and honest people. I believe that after this cooperation, we will have more trust in the future and maybe we will become world friends." After saying that, he generously took out the bone flag and handed it to Zhou Daocheng, saying, "Your Excellency, take a look. This should be the key to entering the formation, so I will temporarily lend it to fellow Taoist." Zhou Daocheng curled his lips and said, "You can't get in even if you have the key?" But after just one glance, Zhou Daocheng probably understood the logic. The bone flag should correspond to a certain eye of the formation. As long as it is placed into it, part of the formation can be opened and one can enter it. However, for people who are not proficient in formations at all, finding formations is a very troublesome task. It is no wonder that Lin Ziwen was stopped outside. Zhou Daocheng took a rough look and found that the place where everyone entered was not the front of the ruins, but the side and rear. The array at the current location is extremely stable, and it is probably not the entrance. And generally speaking, a force will not open the entrance at the side and rear of the station. After all, it is impossible to sneak to the back door every time you go home. According to the structure of the array, Zhou Daocheng went around for most of the distance and finally came to the main gate. Through the looming array, he barely saw the front of the ruins. There are many ancient palaces inside, which are not exquisite and spectacular, and are not even comparable to the station of ordinary foundation building sects. I think that when the Xuanian sect came here, as a dog who lost his home, he didn't have the mind to build a palace. It is likely that all his thoughts were on reviving the sect, so it is normal that the buildings are relatively simple. It should be here, Zhou Daocheng said to himself, and then looked at a hill at the main gate. Then he took up the bone banner in his hand and inserted it directly into the ground. After destroying the stability of this formation, a loophole appeared in the formation in front of him. Seeing this, Lin Ziwen also showed a surprised smile and walked forward quickly. Zhou Daocheng and others did the same, taking a step forward and directly entering the formation. When they came here, it meant that everyone officially entered the core of the ruins, and the next step was to look for the treasure of Xuanian sect. And the cooperation between the two sides has probably come to an end. The next step is to compete for the treasure. Therefore, both sides took a step back, and there was a trace of vigilance in their eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 3 Melons and 2 Dates. Under such circumstances, Zhou Daocheng was also extremely cautious. Once there was a conflict between the two parties, it would probably be his side that would suffer. Although they do have an advantage in terms of the number of foundation building monks, there is a big difference in strength. Although it is not an easy task for a strong man with the third level of foundation building to defeat two people with the first level of foundation building, if he has to fight for life and death, there is a high probability that he will win the final victory with the third level of foundation building. So if possible, he would definitely not want to fight to break out here. Of course, if we really get to the last step, a battle must break out. When there is no way to retreat, Zhou Daocheng doesn't mind taking out some trump cards and fighting for it. The two sides faced off for more than 10 seconds, both wary of each other. In the end, Lin Ziyuan was the first to speak, saying, "Lord of the Foggy Valley, I must tell you the truth. Now that I haven't even seen the treasure, it's not appropriate to fight to the death, right?" Zhou Daocheng looked calm and said, "Then it depends on what fellow Taoist Lin means. Then how about we do this? Let's go in and explore together. If it's a classic book or technique, then each of us can copy a copy. If it's a treasure of heaven, material, earth, or other treasures, then we can discuss the distribution. It's better than fighting to the death right now." Lin Ziyuan suggested in a deep voice. Although he had the upper hand in strength, he was also extremely fearful of the Lord of Foggy Valley in front of him. Before seeing absolute benefits, we are unwilling to make the relationship too tense. After Zhou Daocheng thought for a moment, he nodded and said with a smile, "What is this, fellow Taoist Lin? You and I are allies, so naturally we should advance and retreat together and help each other." Ha ha ha, that's the case. Zhou Daocheng and Zhao also sighed as they saw the two leaders going from tense situations to having a pleasant conversation in a short period of time. It seems that if you want to be the leader of a force, you really can't do it without some ability. But it is precisely the two people who take a step back from each other that can make the next exploration smoother. Although there is still intrigue, at least the strength has improved a lot and it is more convenient to explore. After taking a rough look at the situation in the ruins, we can see that there are not many buildings here. They can even be said to be very crude, and the layout is extremely simple. There are only 3 parts of the pavilion, namely the ordinary pavilions on both sides, the tall palace in front, and the area behind the palace. This is a common layout for many forces. The ordinary pavilions on both sides are inhabited by ordinary tribesmen and disciples with weak strength. Most of them are cave courtyards. The overall items in them should not be many, at most they are daily necessities. However, since everyone is already here, they are not in a hurry to go back. They naturally check each room and loot as many treasures as possible. 4 people start from the left. As soon as I walked in, I saw a thick layer of dust on the ground, and the air was filled with the smell of corruption. It was obvious that no one had been here for a long time. The interior decoration is also very simple, with only 2 simple rooms. Outside is a small wooden living room with a few chairs, and inside is a training room. This is almost the simplest cave structure in the world of immortality. It can be seen that the monks who practiced here must have practiced hard. But thinking about it, if the Xuanian sect is really forced to flee here, it is most likely that it has hatred in its heart and is thinking about how to revive the sect. How can it be fun and enjoyable? After a quick inspection, there wasn't much. Only in the inner training room, I found some daily training items, more than 200 spirit stones, and a copy of the Yin Lu Jing of training techniques. Yindu Sutra is a second-level low-grade skill. It is based on cultivating yin qi and focuses on the water attribute. It is considered a good quality skill. Unfortunately, the Yin Lu Sutra found here is only a handwritten copy, and only the qi refining period part. But Zhou Daocheng is not impatient. There are many caves to come, and it is very likely that he can find the foundation building part. If a complete set of skills can be formed, the value will be greatly improved and it can also add a bit of heritage to the family. After that, the 4 people conducted another round of careful inspection of the cave, prying open almost all the walls and lifting all the floors. After making sure that nothing was left, they turned around and left. The same goes for the rest of the caves that followed. Almost all of them were turned upside down, and no treasures that might exist in them could be found. However, no particularly exciting treasures emerged. All in all, they are almost all daily cultivation items. mainly 4 items: Yunzhi cultivation techniques, spiritual stones, elixirs, and talismans. After almost searching the entire left side, a total of more than 3,000 spiritual stones, the complete Yinlu Jing, and several first-level elixirs and talismans were harvested. Except for the second-level low-grade Yinlu Jing, which has some value, the other 3 melons and 2 dates are simply sending beggars away. Looking at the 1,500 spirit stones allocated to him, Zhou Daocheng was extremely lucky. Fortunately, the conflict did not break out in advance, otherwise it would not be worth it for these 1,500 spirit stones. In fact, with the continuous search of the cave, the relationship between the two parties has become much more harmonious. The same is true for the caves on the right. Although there are many caves, there are really not many things in them. In the end, the items found were not much different: more than 3,500 spirit stones, as well as a number of elixirs and talismans of little value. In total, after searching the ordinary cave at the front, a total of 7,500 spirit stones, a Yinlu Sutra and some cultivation resources of little value were obtained. However, it is strange that no corpses of monks were found here, nor were any magic tools or storage bags. So how did this relic become deserted? It has become a puzzling question. Judging from the perfect facilities here, there has been no war, and no strong invaders have invaded here. It is a very safe place to stay. Even before these monks left, they looked very calm and showed no signs of panic. But after they left, they seemed to never come back, but all left together, as if they were carrying out some urgent tasks. What happened in the past and what kind of difficulties they encountered are now unknown. The long river of history has erased many traces of things, leaving only devastation. Thousands of years later, when someone came to this relic again, it was already a look between 2 eras. Zhou Daocheng and others did not care about what had happened in the past. What they really cared about was what treasures existed here. After looting the outermost cave, distributing the spirit stones, and copying a copy of the Yinlu Sutra, they came to the tall palace in the center. This should be the main body of the building and also the core of this hidden base. Important areas such as the conference room, the training hall, the scripture library, etc. are most likely to be here. Chapter 245 Treasure House. However, after just walking around for a while, I realized that this palace was just an empty shell. In such a large building, with hundreds of rooms, most of them were empty. When I opened the small building labeled Sutra Pavilion, I could not see even a piece of paper, not to mention the exercises and spells, and the dust was piled up more than 10 centimeters thick. Zhou Daocheng was also quite helpless and couldn't help but curl his lips. It seemed a bit shabby here. There was nothing. Since you have nothing, why build such a big building? This is not about sitting around doing nothing. Lin Ziyuan thought for a while and said, I remember that when the Xuanian sect was forced to flee into the eastern Great Wilderness, there seemed to be only a small team and they moved in a hurry. They probably didn't have time to take away the treasures that the Xuanian sect had accumulated over thousands of years. Classics. So it's normal that there's nothing here. So they don't have time to take away Xuanian sect's things? Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but ask. Should be. Lin Ziyuan was also a little helpless. His previous expectations were too perfect and he failed to take into account many factors, which led to excessive expectations and full disappointment after arriving. Now it seems that not only are there no Xuanian sect's 100 evils, yin refining technique, and bone boat, these top inheritances, even some common techniques and treasures seemed to be very rare. After searching the entire front building of the palace, the only places where items were actually placed were the alchemy room and the weapon refining room. It can be clearly seen that these two areas are used the most, and there are also a lot of alchemy and weapon refining materials stored in them. However, it has gone through a long period of time, so most of the materials have been corrupted and can no longer be used. Zhou Daocheng also saw some materials for refining the foundation establishment pill in the alchemy room, but he did not see the foundation establishment pill. This discovery immediately excited everyone. Although there are no elixirs in the alchemy room, there is likely to be an elixir in the treasure house of the ruins. As long as you can find one, It will be a worthwhile trip. The group of 4 people no longer hesitated, hurriedly ended their exploration above, and went directly to the back of the palace. There are no tall buildings here, only some caves dug out in the mountain behind. They don't look big, but they are very hidden. But the more such an area is, the more likely it is that important items are hidden, especially the important inheritance of some sects, which may be placed here. The 4 of them looked at each other and went directly to the front of the cave, but did not enter rashly. First, with the help of the spiritual beast spirit swallowing ant, he made sure there was no danger inside before entering. As a result, I was surprised to find that the internal area was larger than expected. It was not a small stone cave, but dozens of large and small stone chambers, and just in the dark, I could see many things placed there. As the luminous stone illuminated the front, everyone could see clearly what was going on inside. The passage was bottomless and seemed to have hollowed out half of the hill, and they could vaguely feel the fluctuations of spiritual energy. Obviously, this is the most important part of the ruins, and all the precious inheritance should be here. Suddenly, the atmosphere became tense again. However, Zhou Daocheng and Lin Ziwen looked at each other, but neither of them took action immediately. Zhou Daocheng took the initiative and said, "Fellow Taoist Lin, find out all the gains first. As for how to distribute them, we will discuss them later." "Okay, then follow the arrangements of fellow Taoist. You must weigh the interests before you consider whether to take action. Otherwise, if the situation here is the same as before and the interests are not very great, then even distribution does not matter." Zhou Daocheng took action and opened a stone room on the left. Just through the stone door, one could feel a strong spiritual energy coming towards his face. If nothing else, there were at least a lot of spiritual stones inside. As soon as I opened it, the situation was as expected. Everyone's eyes lit up and they looked directly at the things in the room. There are 2 rows of exquisite and simple wooden shelves, with a large number of spiritual stones placed on them. They are so bright that they make people feel trance-like and have an unreal feeling. "We found the right place. The part of the treasure they left behind should be here." Lin Ziwen couldn't help but mutter to himself. Just from the spiritual stones here, you can see how wealthy and profound the Xuanian sect was back then. Even though it was in such a state of decline, it still had a large inventory of spiritual stones. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and his heart was suspended at this moment, beating violently. Even though he tried his best to calm down his excited mood, it was still difficult to control his body's reaction. After all, there were more spirit stones in front of him than he had seen in his entire life. The same was true for Zhou Daocheng and Zhao. They had never seen such a scene before. They were breathing deeply all the time, and a touch of greed flashed in their eyes. Lin Ziwen, on the other hand, is relatively more stable. As the leader of a foundation-building force, he still has the determination he should have. "Lord of Fog Valley, this is just a spirit stone. According to our previous distribution method, one person will get half of it. How about it?" Lin Ziwen said solemnly. Zhou Daocheng heard this, thought for a moment, and then nodded in agreement. At the same time, he also understood that the batch of spiritual stones in front of him were not precious enough for Lin Ziwen to take action. Collect all the spiritual stones on the 2 shelves and roughly count the number. Among them, the number of ordinary low-grade spiritual stones is the largest. They are placed at the bottom of the shelf and packed in wooden boxes that isolate the spiritual energy. There are a total of 12 boxes, and each box stores 10,000 low-grade spiritual stones. There are a total of 120,000 low-grade spiritual stones. If you go to the ordinary market, you can already buy 2 foundation building pills. For ordinary foundation building forces, there are no channels for quickly harvesting spiritual stones such as Fangshi. It will take about 40 to 50 years to accumulate so many spiritual stones. Moreover, it is necessary to ensure that in the past 40 or 50 years, every year will be a net income, and there will be no unexpected consumption of spiritual stones. Even for today's Wugu, the amount of spiritual stones that can be accumulated every year is not that many. Only 15,000 to 25,000 spiritual stones, and some of them have to be taken out for the daily operation of the market. At the same time, it also needs to be used to cultivate strong people, purchase various resources needed for cultivation, and conduct external transactions. In fact, it can only be accumulated to 10,000 spirit stones. As for the 35,000 spirit stones obtained from the previous auction, and the 70,000 spirit stones obtained from the sale of more than 70 monks in Beifang City, this time can be regarded as an unexpected gain, not a long-term solution. However, in front of me, there are a total of 120,000 spirit stones. Even Lin Ziyuan, who has a profound foundation, couldn't help but breathe heavily. Although the Daxia sect is also very wealthy and has been on the rise in recent years, and Beifang City provides a large amount of spiritual stones, there must be a lot of spiritual stones in stock. But even so, facing such a huge number of spirit stones, he still couldn't calm down. Chapter 246, Top-Grade Spiritual Stone. Moreover, this is only a first-order low-grade spiritual stone. In addition, there are more than 300 first-level middle-grade spiritual stones on the shelf, which is equivalent to 30,000 low-grade spiritual stones, but the actual value should be higher. Under normal circumstances, most mid-grade spirit stones should not be used as currency, because they have some unique functions, such as serving as the core of a puppet, or as energy for spirit boats, and can also be used to supply the operation of formations. In particular, second-level puppets and formations have a greater demand for spiritual energy and have higher requirements for the quality of spiritual energy. Most of them use second-level spiritual stones. As for the large spirit boats with higher quality, they need to use high-grade spirit stones, or even the best spirit stones to be able to barely drive them. Mid-grade spiritual stones are not so much currency as high-quality spiritual stones are strategic resources. Most powerful forces will hoard them in large quantities and rarely circulate in the market. Therefore, in the eyes of many forces, the value of 300 middle-grade spiritual stones may be higher than the value of 120,000 low-grade spiritual stones. However, Lin Ziyuan and Zhou Daocheng did not have this idea, because for now, they seemed to have no need for middle-grade spiritual stones. Lin Ziyuan's Dasu sect is not proficient in puppets and formations, let alone refining spirit boats. Even if he has middle-grade spirit stones, he can probably only save them. Zhou Daocheng is in a similar situation. Although he is a formation master, there are only a few second-level formations that require the use of mid-level spiritual stones, and most of them are large-scale formations that cover an extremely wide area and protect an entire sect and family. However, it is actually difficult for Zhou Daocheng to encounter this situation. On the one hand, he already has a second-level high-grade natural maze, and there is also a large amount of spiritual energy provided by the fog spirit grass, so he does not need the spiritual stone to provide energy at all. On the other hand, he also has his biggest trump card, Fusion Formation. The Fusion Formation has one of the most basic functions, which is to fuse the spirit-gathering formation and continuously replenish the formation with spiritual energy. Therefore, for other people, supplying spiritual energy is a very difficult thing, but for Zhou Daocheng, it is not a problem. Therefore, although these 300 middle-grade spiritual stones are valuable, for Lin Ziyuan and Zhou Daocheng, they are actually equivalent to 30,000 low-grade spiritual stones, which is not a bloody fight. But that's not all there is to gain. Everyone looked at the top shelf of the shelf, where there were two exquisite small boxes, made of a kind of purple jade wood and of extremely high quality. It is placed in a room dedicated to storing spiritual stones, and its status is higher than that of mid-grade spiritual stones, so the quantity is so rare. Adding up these points, everyone has probably guessed what is stored in it. Zhou Daocheng took the initiative to take down the two boxes, but as soon as he got them in his hands, his heart couldn't help but sink. Because there is a box in it, which seems to be empty. If there was only one, I'm afraid it would be difficult to distribute, but fortunately it would be a bit troublesome. Moreover, if it is really a high-grade spiritual stone, then both Zhou Daocheng and Lin Ziyuan will most likely try their best to fight for it. The value of high-grade spiritual stones is far from being comparable to that of mid-grade spiritual stones and low-grade spiritual stones. There is a certain probability of middle-grade spiritual stones appearing in the second-level spiritual stone veins, but the quantity is extremely rare, and there may not even be one. let alone a high-grade spiritual stone. Only the third-level spiritual stone veins, which are the mineral veins occupied by the Xifu forces, will have some middle-grade spiritual stones, and there is a very small probability of high-grade spiritual stones appearing. This shows how rare high-grade spiritual stones are. In addition, there is a very important point. The spiritual energy contained in high-grade spiritual stones is extremely pure and requires almost no refining. The monks can absorb it directly. If you absorb the spiritual stones from the high-grade spiritual stones during the breakthrough, the probability of breakthrough will be increased to a certain extent. This effect also has a certain effect on monks who have broken through the foundation building stage, but it is relatively smaller. In addition, you have the same effects as the high-grade spiritual stones that the middle-grade spiritual stones have: puppet, formation, spirit boat, talisman, and even some magic weapons. All use high-grade spirit stones. Therefore, the price of a high-grade spiritual stone cannot be measured by a low-grade spiritual stone. Even if it is not used by oneself, it can be sold to powerful forces in exchange for a lot of resources. Zhou Daocheng's eyes moved slightly, and in order to cause unnecessary trouble, he opened two boxes at the same time. After seeing the situation, I breathed a sigh of relief. There are 3 positions in each box, which should be able to place 3 high-grade spiritual stones. One of the boxes was indeed empty, not even a single high-grade spiritual stone. But another box happened to store 2 high-grade spiritual stones, which exuded silvery white light and were as warm and moist as jade. They were very different from other spiritual stones in appearance, and looked very extraordinary. Zhou Daocheng secretly exhaled, threw a high-grade spiritual stone to Lin Ziyuan, and then hid the other one. However, Lin Ziyuan's face darkened and he said, "Half for each person, give me a box." Zhou Daocheng curled his lips helplessly. He originally wanted to grab a box, but he didn't expect Lin Ziyuan to be so stingy. This kind of box that can store high-grade spiritual stones is definitely of extraordinary value. At least, storing most of the second-level treasures should be able to effectively prevent the leakage of spiritual energy. It can be regarded as a second-level magic weapon, similar to the Zhou family's Jade Spirit Box. The remaining other spiritual stones are also distributed equally, with 60,000 low-grade spiritual stones per person and 150 medium-grade spiritual stones. Total, this is a total of 75,000 spiritual stones, plus this top-grade spiritual stone. The harvest has exceeded 100,000 spiritual stones. This exploration of the ruins, even if only these spiritual stones, it would not be in vain. Even with these spiritual stones, plus the tens of thousands of spiritual stones in his hands, he can buy 2 more foundation building pills. Next, he only needs to develop slowly. After 40 or 50 years, he can cultivate 2 foundation building masters for the family and become a powerful foundation building family. He can bring the current Zhou family to a new height. Such an opportunity to directly obtain hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones can indeed directly change the fate of a family and completely stabilize the inheritance of foundation building cultivators. The significance is absolutely extraordinary. At the same time, they have to say that the foundation of the top-level Xifu sect is indeed not to be underestimated. Even if it has fallen to this level, there are still such a wealth of spiritual stones. What makes them even more excited is that this is only the first stone chamber, and there are more than a dozen stone chambers waiting to be explored. The 4 of them pushed open the second stone chamber with excitement. The third stone chamber. The fourth stone chamber. The result was that they were dumbfounded. The next few stone chambers were completely empty, with nothing left. However, according to the remaining layout and some traces, these places should have stored magic tools and talismans. Chapter 247 Heart Sword. These stone chambers have most likely stored items in the past, but unfortunately they must have been used up, so there is only a pile of empty boxes left. There is also an elixir cultivation room, which should be dedicated to cultivating several special elixirs. However, because it was left unattended for a long time, the spirit gathering array stopped operating, so the elixirs have withered. There is also the spirit beast room, which also has nothing in it and looks extremely empty. The succession of several stone chambers immediately made everyone frown. It seemed that the situation here was not as good as everyone imagined. I just don't know what happened to the Xuanian sect back then, so that all the talismans were consumed, all the magic weapons were taken away, and all the monks disappeared together. Everything was so long ago that Zhou Daocheng had no way of knowing. He only knew that most of the resources had been consumed. However, when we walked to the 8th stone chamber, items appeared inside again, and there seemed to be quite a few. Looking through the luminous stone, it seems that this is a small library with some scattered books randomly placed. Most of them are stained with heavy dust and look extremely old. Zhou Daocheng walked in. Just as he was about to pick up a book and check it out, he was stopped by Lin Ziwen on the side. "Don't touch them yet. It's been too long and these books have weathered. If you touch them lightly, they will turn into dust." When Zhou Daocheng heard this, he paused slightly and retracted his outstretched hand. Although these ancient books were all made of noble paper, after such a long time interval, they eventually lost their original texture and became extremely fragile. The four of them did not dare to take action easily, and finally carefully looked at the names of the books. After reading a few books, they couldn't help but feel excited. There are many books here, all of which are extremely precious. For example, the inheritance of weapon refining, elixirs, and talismans are almost all recorded here, and the quality of them all reaches the 2nd level. But unfortunately, due to too long time, the books have been completely corrupted, and they may not dare to touch them with their hands. Zhao asked curiously, "These are precious inheritances. Why doesn't Xuanian sect use longer-lived monster leather or magical instruments such as shadow stones to record them, but instead uses paper books?" Zhou Daocheng looked at it, thought for a moment and said, "The inheritance of these immortal cultivation skills should not be the original version, but among the group of Xuanian sect monks who fled here, there are some weapons refiners, talisman masters and alchemists who the knowledge in my mind was recorded and then compiled into these books. That should be the case. No wonder the quality of the books is so low." After Zhou Daocheng looked around, he stamped his foot violently. The strong force shook Xiang Fang's frame, causing it to shake. The corrupted books on it suddenly turned into powder amidst the vibrations. "It can't be repaired. Let's see if there are any books with better quality," Zhou Daocheng said lightly. Although the others were distressed, they did not object. A pile of books that could not be repaired was disturbing to look at, so it was better to just destroy them. "I just want to see if there are any books recorded using leather or precious materials among these books." In addition to the shelves, there are also some dilapidated cabinets. There are also some books in the cabinets, but most of them are also unreadable and turned into powder on the ground. But not long after, the eldest brother Zhou Daobai found an exquisite book from the bottom cabinet. As soon as he appeared, he immediately attracted everyone's attention and looked straight at him. "This is actually a swordsmanship book." Zhou Daocheng was immediately delighted. This is a good thing. The eldest brother Zhou Daobai lacks strength, mostly due to the lack of spells and powerful attack methods. If you can learn a set of swordsmanship, your strength will be greatly improved. What made him strange was that Lin Ziwen on the side did not show any surprise. After taking a look at the name of the swordsmanship, he frowned deeply, with surprise in his eyes, which soon turned into disdain. Zhou Daocheng asked curiously, "Do you know this swordsmanship, fellow Taoist Lin?" Lin Ziwen hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "I've heard of a set of swordsmanship that is of high quality but not of high value." When these words came out, Zhou Daocheng was stunned and confused for a moment. High quality, but low value? Even Zhou Daocheng felt extremely strange when he said this. Among the 2nd level or 3rd level heavenly materials and earthly treasures, there may indeed be items of high quality but of little use, which Zhou Daocheng could barely understand. After all, there are many types of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and there may be some extremely high-quality poisonous items, or items that cannot be used by monks. But swordsmanship. Is there anything flashy about it? Then, Lin Ziwen also gave a brief explanation, and then Zhou Daocheng and the other three suddenly realized. This set of swordsmanship was still very famous back then. There is no other reason, just because its quality is as high as the 3rd level. It can attract the attention of many people, including the powerful Xuanian sect. The third level corresponds to the Zaifu monks. Once you learn it, even the Zaifu monks can greatly improve their strength. If it were from the Foundation establishment monk society, it would also have the same power, and even the power could be comparable to that of a small magical power. What is supernatural power? The Foundation building monks use spells, but the spells of the Zaifu monks are stronger, even surpassing the concept of spells, so they are also called supernatural powers. Many famous and powerful people in the Purple Mansion have their own unique magical powers. For example, the King Shan sect and King Shan Zenrin, whose famous magical power is the Mountain God Seal, has extremely terrifying power. Even among the Purple Mansion Zenrin, it is an existence that cannot be underestimated. And the minor magical power is that some powerful foundation-building cultivators have already comprehended the rudiments of magical power in the late stage of foundation building, and exerted some minor magical powers that are more powerful than spells. Anyone who can comprehend the existence of minor magical powers means that his talent is high enough, and there is a high probability that he can reach a higher realm. And a set of third-level swordsmanship is enough to lay a solid foundation for a foundation-building cultivator, especially for sword cultivators, who have a chance to comprehend their own swordsmanship from it. Zhou Daocheng has always wanted to find a swordsmanship book and a knife method book, one for his eldest brother Zhou Daobai and his 18th brother Zhou Daoxiu. Zhou Daoxiu is not weak in knife method, but if there's a set of systematic knife methods for him to learn from childhood, he is likely to walk out of his own way in the future. As a result, when a third-level sword method appeared in front of him, Lin Zioen actually disdained it, which really made him a little incomprehensible. Lin Zioen sneered and explained calmly, "This sword technique is called Heart Evil Sword, but it is also known as the Heart Demon Sword. Although it is nominally a righteous spell, it is somewhat close to evil, because this sword technique can arouse the inner demons and desires in people's hearts." Chapter 248 Blood Lotus Pill. It is said that in Xuanian sect, several elders in the late stage of foundation establishment took a fancy to the quality of this set of swordsmanship and tried to learn it. However, in the end, their desires were aroused in their hearts and they fell into evil cultivation. There are also some who are obsessed with it, trapped in it and unable to extricate themselves, and die. Zhou Daocheng frowned. So that's it. It's really not a serious swordsmanship. He also understood why Lin Zioen was no longer interested. After all, the disadvantages of this kind of swordsmanship are too great. A method that cannot be controlled has little value no matter how high the level or how powerful the ability is. Moreover, in the world of immortality, it is not true that one will become stronger if one falls into evil ways. It is simply nonsense to say that one becomes possessed by evil and then breaks through and then gains strength. Even if you are an evil cultivator, no matter how evil the spell you use, you have to be able to control it, otherwise it will be useless. Lin Zioen said nonchalantly, "I'm not interested in this swordsmanship book, so there's no need to copy it again. You can just play with it yourself." Zhou Daocheng curled his lips helplessly. Co-authoring this book on swordsmanship was so unpopular that he didn't even think of copying it. The eldest brother Zhou Daobai flipped through 2 pages. His face changed unpredictable, but in the end he did not throw it away, but stuffed it into the storage bag. Regardless of anything else, just because of the quality of this set of swordsmanship, it cannot be discarded easily. Maybe you can learn some tricks from it. If it doesn't work, just throw it to the market and sell it, and maybe it can be sold for a big price. Next, everyone searched carefully, but apart from the Sword of the Heart, there were no other books to read, which was really a pity. Watching these precious inheritances turn into dust, several people's hearts bleed. If all these books on alchemy, weapon refining, and talismans could be brought back, then the foundations of both the Dessau sect and the Zhou family would be enough to multiply several times and become a force with all-round development. It's a pity that there is no if. In the end, there were only 4 or 5 stone chambers left, and the 3 of them opened them all without any suspense. 3 of them were either empty or completely corrupt, with no useful items at all. Only in the 2 stone chambers can you see something of value. Especially one of them. Once you look in, you can see a large number of bottles and jars, and the rich fragrance of elixirs wafts out, making people feel refreshed. 3 words immediately came to everyone's mind: elixir room. A room dedicated to storing elixirs, and it seems that the storage methods are very good. Even after 1,000 years, there are still many intact elixirs that can be used. Walking inside, there are a large number of elixirs of different qualities placed on the shelves, and they are all labeled with the names of the elixirs. The most common first-level low-grade elixirs, such as qi nourishing pills, qi supplementing pills, and blood coagulating pills, or first-order mid-grade qi blood pills, and rejuvenation pills. Almost the entire box was thrown in the corner, inconspicuous at all. However, these low-quality elixirs were not stored well and could not be used at this time, turning into elixir fragrance and floating in the air. The reason why everyone can smell the strong fragrance of elixirs is because of these low-quality elixirs. However, among the first-grade high-grade elixirs, there are still some of higher quality, which are kept in jade bottles and have not completely disappeared. Zhou Daocheng found 3 first-level high-quality elixirs among them, namely, condensing method pill, feeding spirit pill, and Yunzhi powder. They should be the most commonly used elixirs by the Xuanian sect monks back then, so there are quite a lot of them. Condensation pill is an extremely common pill that can improve cultivation and is suitable for monks in the late stages of qi refining. Spirit feeding pill is a pill specially used for spirit beasts. It can quickly increase the strength of spirit beasts. However, the prescriptions of this pill are relatively rare and there are not many forces that can refine it, so it is not common in the city. As for Yunzhi powder, it should be a very rare type of elixir that helps monks who practice Yunzhi improve their strength. After discussion between Zhou Daocheng and Lin Ziyuan, they decided to share the Ningfa pill equally, the spirit-feeding pill to Zhou Daocheng, and the Yunzhi powder to Lin Ziyuan. Each of them took what they needed. The number of remaining second-level elixirs is relatively small. After all, Xuanian sect had already declined at that time and its foundation was gone. It should be very difficult to refine second-level elixirs. Both the access to medicinal materials and the level of alchemists will become important limiting factors. However, after gathering the remaining second-level elixirs, there are still more than a dozen Ling Ling, and each one is contained in a separate box. The spiritual energy is not leaked at all, so they should be able to be used. And judging from the quality of the box, we can roughly see the value of these elixirs. There were a total of 8 boxes in a batch of lower quality boxes. After opening them all, they found that they were the more common second-level low-grade elixir, Yuanling pill. It has similar functions to the condensation pill. They are both pills used to enhance strength, but the Yuanling pill is suitable for monks in the early stage of foundation building. Zhu Daocheng, Lin Ziyuan, and Zhao can all use it. Taking one pill is equivalent to 5 to 7 years of cultivation. If you take it when you encounter a bottleneck, the effect should be better. However, a foundation building monk can only take one Yuanling pill in the early stage of foundation building. This kind of elixir is of high value and can be sold at a high price no matter which market it is in. Moreover, most forces would probably not sell this elixir, but would instead pass it down as part of their power's heritage. These 8 Yuanling pills, 4 for each person, are distributed fairly. There are 6 more boxes left. Lin Ziyuan opened 4 boxes of the same type, revealing a red pill inside, which immediately made several people's eyes light up. Lin Ziyuan was knowledgeable and his eyes suddenly lit up, and he exclaimed, "This is blood lotus pill?" Such a look of incompetence also made Zhou Daocheng and others look over curiously. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but exclaimed when he heard the name. He had heard of the name of this pill, and it was well known in the world of immortal cultivation. It is a kind of second-grade upper-grade, extremely precious healing pill. It is said that even if the injury is serious, the blood lotus pill can save it. If, in the process of breaking through the foundation building period, a blood lotus pill is prepared, then even if the breakthrough fails in the end, it can ensure that he will not die, and even without any injuries, and there will be a chance to break through next time. However, only forces with deep foundations will equip blood lotus pill to the cultivators who break through. After all, The value of Blood Lotus Pill alone has reached more than 30,000 spirit stones, which is not affordable for ordinary forces. Forces like the Zhou family or the Dsu sect, if they have Blood Lotus Pill, will most likely use it to save their lives, and will not be willing to use it for breakthrough. After all, Blood Lotus Pill cannot increase the probability of breakthrough, it only guarantees that you will not get hurt. Chapter 249 Conflict. If the breakthrough succeeds, everyone will be happy. If the breakthrough fails, it doesn't matter if they get hurt, as long as they don't die. It's not that extravagant to use the Blood Lotus Pill. 2 Blood Lotus Pills each made Zhou Daocheng and Lindsay Owen breathe a lot heavier. Even the positions of the two people were vaguely more cautious. After all, such valuable pills have a certain possibility of destroying their already weak cooperative relationship. Fortunately, all the pills are not even in number, which is barely enough for the two to share, and they can barely maintain a balance. On the other hand, although the Blood Lotus Pill is expensive, it is only a life-saving pill after all, so it won't cause them to fight. If they fight now, maybe they don't even need to take the Blood Lotus Pill back, and they can take it directly on the spot. However, such a weak balance was completely broken the moment the last 2 boxes were opened. Just a crack was opened, revealing a faint breath, and everyone present changed their faces instantly. Lindsay Owen's eyes suddenly showed a trace of greed, and finally he made a move, and the Yin Sha claw grabbed Zhou Daocheng without hesitation, and the Yin Qi filled the stone room. Behind Zhou Daocheng, Zhou Daobai and Zhao also reacted quickly. The moment they felt the smell of the elixir in the box, they immediately knew that something was wrong, so they immediately took action. The eldest brother Zhou Daobai grabbed Zhou Daocheng's shoulders and threw him to the back to avoid being hit by the Yin Sha claw. Zhao made a quick move, and the ice crystal spell burst out with a cold chill, colliding with Lindsay Owen's Yin Sha claw, and the spiritual energy fluctuated violently, freezing the entire stone room with a layer of frost. When the two spells collided, it was immediately clear which one was stronger and which one was weaker. Zhao was obviously at a disadvantage. Not only was his strength not as good as Lindsay Owen's, but even the quality of his spells was much worse. If he hadn't dodged in time, I'm afraid he would have been seriously injured by just this move. Moreover, Lindsay Owen's mind was not on attacking, but on forcing Zhou Daocheng and the other two to retreat. He quickly returned, grabbed the 2 boxes on the table, and stuffed them into the storage bag without hesitation. Then he slowly looked at Zhou Daocheng and the other two, with a cold expression and a little regret, saying, "I didn't want to have a conflict with you, but since this kind of elixir has appeared, it's not my fault." Zhou Daocheng got up from the ground, dusted off his body, and did not show anger. Instead, he smiled and said, "It's really unexpected that there are 2 foundation building pills here. I really don't know whether it's lucky or unfortunate." The 2 boxes just now contained 2 foundation building pills. The medicinal fragrance was extremely strong. Just by opening a gap, everyone was keenly aware that it was a foundation building pill, so a conflict occurred in the shortest time. If it was just the Blood Lotus Pill, the cooperative relationship could be barely maintained. But once the foundation building pill appeared, the balance would be completely broken. Lindsay Owen would never allow such a precious pill as the foundation building pill to be distributed with Zhou Daocheng and others. Moreover, the reason why he dared to take the initiative was also due to his absolute confidence. At least in his opinion, relying on his own strength, he was enough to deal with the 3 people in Wu Yifeng City. With the strength of the 3rd level of foundation building, he possessed the powerful spell Yin Sha Claw, as well as 2 second-level magic tools White Bone Banner and Earth Yin Compass. With such a strong strength, Lindsay Owen did not think he would lose to 2 opponents of the 1st level of foundation building who had not learned any spells and whose magic tools were also extremely weak. This was indeed the case. From the beginning to the end, Zhou Daocheng's side was always at a disadvantage in terms of strength. 2 first-level foundation building people besieged a 3rd-level foundation building person, and the probability of failure accounted for the vast majority. Zhou Daocheng looked at Lindsay Owen deeply and said, "Friend Lin, we have 2 foundation building pills, 1 for each of us. There is no need to have a conflict at this time, right?" Lindsay Owen sneered, Lord of the Mist Valley, there is no need to say such childish words at this time, right? This will only bring shame to your reputation and make me look down on you. For the sake of our previous cooperation, if you hand over the Blood Lotus Pill and take out another 50,000 spirit stones, I can promise to let you go. I'll say this once. If you don't listen, don't blame me for being ruthless. Lin Zion had already made plans and had no intention of stopping. The magic power of his right hand was condensed, and the yin sha claw had begun to condense. Zhou's face was ugly, and he had already had the intention of retreating. The yin sha claw, the unique magic of the earthly evil sect, was extremely powerful. A casual attack before made it difficult for Zhou to resist. Now if he used all his strength, and in such a narrow stone room, he would be unavoidable. Moreover, Lin Zion also had a white bone banner, which was already roaring like a beast's residual soul, and was about to rush out of the white bone banner. Zhou's forehead was covered with sweat, and he felt great pressure. He couldn't help but whispered, "Lord of the Fog Valley, if we fight him here, I'm afraid it will be difficult to resist. Why don't we withdraw temporarily?" On the side, the eldest brother Zhou Daocheng was also a little hesitant, and couldn't help but persuade, "Zhou is right, there is no need to fight him to death here. Let's go back to the Yunzhi outside and fight him slowly. With your formation, our chances of winning will only be higher." He was also worried that his younger brother would not be able to resist the temptation of the foundation building pill and force himself to fight Lin Zion here. The final result, I'm afraid there is only one. That is death. It is precisely because he is a foundation building strongman that he knows the gap between himself and Lin Zion more clearly. Zhou Daocheng did not answer the two. His calm face under the mask showed a hint of coldness at this time. "Lin Zion, I will only say this once. If you stop now, I will forgive you for your past mistakes." After the voice fell, the stone chamber suddenly fell into silence. 2 seconds later, Lin Zion's unbridled laughter was heard. "Ha ha ha, Lord of Fog Valley, who gave you the courage? I respected you as a man before, but now, you are just like that." While speaking, Lin Zion's eyes became disdainful, and he said coldly, "Since you're so confident, I have changed my mind. Today, if you can stand and walk out of this ruins, I, Lin Zion, will take your surname." After the voice fell, Lin Zion's claws attacked, and the terrifying Yunzhi made people shudder. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng and Zhou's faces turned green, and they felt their heads buzzing. Originally, there was still a chance to leave, but now they had to fight, and they really didn't understand why Zhou Daocheng had to fight here. Once they leave the stone chamber and go to the Yunzhi outside, they can hide underground with the convenience of the formation and fight against Lin Zion. By then, the chances of winning will definitely be greater than now. However, Zhou Daocheng broke their fantasy with just one sentence. Chapter 250. Fellow Taoist Zhou, fellow Taoist Z, don't think that he will let us out. With the bone flag in his hand, we have no chance to leave the formation. The cold words suddenly made Zhou Daocheng and Zhou suddenly realize, and they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. They can come and go freely in the Yunzhi. Doesn't Lin Zion know? Will this detail be ignored? No, the master of the sect will never ignore such small details. So from the beginning to the end, he had no intention of letting a few people go. Lin Zion's eyes were deep, and he glanced at Zhou Daocheng with a hint of approval, and said meaningfully, "As expected of the Lord of Fog Valley, you are not stupid, but your brain is not equal to your strength. You must die here today." While talking, Lin Zion and Zhou Daocheng were already fighting together. The three foundation building experts instantly burst out with powerful momentum, filling the entire stone chamber with powerful air currents. The Yunzhi was billowing like clouds in mist, and the remnant soul of the beast in the bone flag kept roaring in it, launching fierce attacks from time to time. Zhou Daocheng unsheathed his sharp sword and continued to block with his superb skills. In the light of the sword and the shadow of the sword, he kept slashing at Lin Zion's magic weapon. Zhou also worked hard. The ice edges, accompanied by the rich water vapor, resisted the attack of hard energy, and the surrounding temperature dropped a few points. Both sides used their methods at the same time, not daring to be careless in the slightest. Every time they fight, spiritual energy splashes in the air. After several shots in succession, Zhou Daocheng and Zhao used their strong will to forcefully stop Lin Ziyuan. This also surprised Lin Ziyuan. It seemed that he did not expect that the two monks in front of him who had just broken through the foundation building could have such outstanding strength. Even though he has a certain advantage, this is 1 versus 2 after all, and the opponent can naturally handle it in a short period of time. Lin Ziyuan also felt a bit of pressure, and looked at Zhou Daocheng and Zhao with some regret, and said, "You two, I just have a grudge against the Lord of Fog Valley and has nothing to do with you two. If you two just retreat, how about I spare your lives?" Zhou Daocheng and Zhou Daocheng were breathing heavily, and their eyes were full of caution. They were not affected by Lin Ziyuan's words at all. If he were an ordinary foundation building expert, he might indeed be instigated to rebel. But Lin Ziyuan found the wrong person. Zhou Daocheng is a member of the Zhou family, so it is impossible to leave Zhou Daocheng alone. Zhao is not a heartless person, otherwise he would not stay in Wugu and work for Zhou Daocheng. But Lin Ziyuan did not intend to give up, and advised, "You two, today the master of Wugu Valley will die, and Wugufang City will definitely become an ownerless land when the time comes. If you and I jointly occupy it, will the benefits we get be less than now?" Zhou Daocheng said coldly, "Old man, stop talking nonsense. Do you think we are all like you, treacherous and reneging on our word?" "Humphrey, you are stubborn, so don't blame me for being rude." Lin Ziyuan's eyes narrowed. He burst out with powerful momentum, and took action again. Seeing this scene, Zhou Daocheng and Zhao broke out in cold sweat on their foreheads. Although they responded forcefully, they really couldn't resist when they started fighting. However, at this moment, Zhou Daocheng said coldly, "Lin Ziyuan, since you insist on getting things done, don't blame me for being rude." After the words fell, Zhou Daocheng took up the magic formula with both hands, and a mysterious formation pattern appeared on the ground, flashing with various patterns and lines, exuding a mysterious and powerful aura. At this moment, 2 obscure foundation building auras appeared in the air. The other 3 were startled and immediately took a step back. Immediately afterwards, the ground collapsed slightly, and then the floor was violently smashed. A large amount of gravel flew out, and the terrifying force erupted with a deafening roar, almost collapsing the entire stone room. In the midst of the flying dust, 2 huge creatures appeared in front of everyone, accompanied by splashing earth and rocks. "What is this?" Lin Ziyuan's pupils shrank and he quickly took a few steps back, looking at the scene in front of him in shock. 2 extremely huge giant snakes appeared in the stone chamber, measuring more than 20 meters in size. They looked ferocious and terrifying, and their aura was extremely powerful. However, after careful inspection, Lin Ziyuan discovered that these were not real monsters, but 2 extremely realistic puppets. The entire body is carved from jet black wood. It is hard and rich in texture, and has a touch of exquisite patterns. It looks like a different kind of beauty. When swimming, it will make a clear sound of wood hitting stone. Although it was just a puppet, when his eyes met the snake eyes, he felt that he was not a puppet, but a real monster stared at him, and he couldn't help but stand on his head. At this moment, although Lin Ziyuan was confused about where these 2 demon beast puppets came from, he was more alert and cautious. The spiritual energy had covered his whole body, and he felt a little troublesome. He has already seen the strength of the 2 monster puppets, and they have all reached the foundation building stage. Zhou Daocheng and Zhao were no less shocked than Zhao. They froze in place after seeing this scene and turned to look at Zhou Daocheng in disbelief. Zhao was already prepared for a fight to the death, but he didn't expect that his leader actually had a trump card, and the first move he made was 2 second-level monster puppets. Such terrifying methods made him feel awe. The eldest brother Zhou Daocheng was thoughtful. The 2 monster puppets in front of him were the python monsters that broke into the Foggy Valley before. Zhou Daocheng didn't believe it if there was no relationship between the 2. And indeed, he felt the aura of the 2 giant pythons on the 2 monster beast puppets. Lin Ziyuan's eyes were deep, and his mind was full of thoughts, but in the end, He only said one sentence, "Master of Fog Valley, what a trick." Zhou Daocheng stood behind the spotted viper with a calm expression, and said calmly, "Without some tricks, I dare not explore the ruins with fellow Taoist Lin." Hearing this slightly sarcastic voice, Lin Ziyuan just grinned and didn't care too much. Going back on one's word, betrayal? In front of two foundation-building pills, these comments are completely insignificant. Can it be that for the so-called morality, can we give up real interests? Besides, both parties have their own ulterior motives, but he is stronger and chooses to take action first. If Lin Ziyuan was not sure whether Zhou Daocheng would take action before, but when he saw these two second-level monster puppets, he was almost certain that even if he did not take the initiative, the Master of Fog Valley would break the balance sooner or later. But what shocked him even more was that a small Wugu market had accumulated so many foundation-building masters in such a short time. If there was no big force behind the development speed, then it must be a great fortune and opportunity. But no matter which one it was worth Lin Ziyuan's fear. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.